How's it going, everybody? Dirt Sociable's back. We have a guest in the studio. We have Jesse Greaves with us. How are you doing?
Good.
That is good. So how we kind of run things is we start with the engine warm-up. So we give you the opportunity to give us a little bit of a brief intro into how you got into short track racing and just your racing history.
So, I, being related, obviously, to the Greaves family, I was brought to the track as, an infant. I have photos of me and Corey, Kyle's older brother, as babies at the track in the back of a trailer somewhere in the pits. And, so that was, my real introduction of it. And then as far as, being a fan, John Cday's shop is, 3-4 minutes up the road from where I grew up. So, at least their shop where it is now. But I also, my dad would take me to visit when they were out in De Pere, and then obviously once they moved into Swamico, we went up there, and visited every so often. And
so did you grow up in Swamico or?
Swamico.
Okay, Swamico.
And then as far as racing goes, we did a lot of the clay oval go-karts is what I did mostly. And then I think I ran those until 10 or 12. And then I kind of didn't race anything for a while. It was just life, and we got into other things as a family. And then I actually, completely different than short course, I did some, it's called autocross, but you're on like a road course with, some are road courses, some are just cone courses, but it's, like a scaled down time attack type of thing. So at that point I was really into, well, still am into road cars and stuff. And, I had still have it, a 91 Civic hatchback that I completely restored while I was in high school, and basically made into a little road car basically that, that I really only used for racing events. And I did that, raced that for, on the weekend around having normal jobs, and nothing really like crazy, it's just you can bring your own car there and whatnot. And then
Was that with the Fox Valley
Yep.
Auto Club?
Yeah.
So that was the same thing back in the day?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and they still do it at, around in like at Shawano at US Air
Yeah.
and stuff. That was always...
They do a Road America one too.
Yep,
Yeah.
I've done it there. They actually do it on the go-kart track there.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
did their winter autocross.
Oh, did you?
With my UTV.
Yeah.
I'm convinced I'm the first Polaris that has gone around Road America. So,
Probably.
but yeah, it's been on the go-kart track, and then they put you on like turn 14, and
Yeah.
I think, what is it, turn 10 or 9, there's like a little in-turn segment there.
Yep.
And then if you're a bunch of good kids, they let you go around the track
Yeah.
in an orderly fashion.
Yeah. They're more strict, normally. I think in the winter they get away with a little bit less stuff. But yeah, and then long story short, I mean, we can get into it, but it actually just came up one day. Jesse Klaus, through a mutual friend, introduced us, and it was one of the first years that they ran UTVs at Fall Crandon. I think it was the first year. There wasn't even like a full thing yet. Mm-hmm. And basically got to know each other. He had a 2016 Yamaha, and we were actually out on the bay on a boat, and we were just talking about it or whatever. And he's like, what do you think about this and this? And then he kind of just one day was like, hey, if I buy a cage, will you weld it together and go race Crandon? And I was like, I guess, like,
Why not?
Why
would
not?
you say
And
no?
I mean, at that point, I had a TIG welder and stuff at home, but I wasn't a shop by any means. So he bought a cage that was already pre-bent, notched and everything. We put it together. Like it got lost. Half of it got lost in shipping. So I had to drive down to like Appleton FedEx to pick it up. And we rolled it in the trailer at 4:30 in the morning. We had to be there. I mean, that was the Friday, like we had to be there. So 4:30 in the morning, went home, showered, drove up there, made it through tech practice. And he unfortunately got hit on the land rush and rolled it. But that was the first time that I was really, back into that side of short course. Not necessarily the fan part, but in the pits and stuff.
So that was that was the year I raced too.
Yeah.
So ERX was the first inaugural race. It was like mid-season. And then I want to say like Bark River was after it. And then
I think Bark River and then Fall Crandon.
Fall Crandon, yeah. It was a shorter season.
Yeah.
We didn't have Dirt City at that time.
Well, and it wasn't even really a thing. Like they were just kind of fitting the side-by-sides in to what was going on at that point.
It's crazy to think like that's where it started to where it is today, where there's hundreds of them out there. It's really evolved from, and that wasn't that long ago.
2017.
I guess, nowadays. It's like 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah. But, no, I mean, that's kind of, and then from there, I worked with Jesse for a little bit. And then I actually ended up, I was working a different job, and Kurt Greaves called me one day just out of the blue and asked me if, what I was doing and if I wanted to build cart chassis.
Oh, yeah. The short course carts.
Yep. Short course and mod carts. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that and learn, all the ins and outs of, chassis building and whatever. Yeah. And so that's how I ended up working with Kurt and Kyle for almost 3 years, I think. Yeah. And then, and during that time, I worked for, at the track, I was helping Ryan Mulder for a couple of years. And then in 2019, we won the Pro Stock championship.
Yeah.
Which to that point, and even for a while after that, was like one of the only ones that CJ didn't win until Hager came over. Yeah. But did that, and then worked with Holters for a little under 2 years. Won the Pro Light Championship there, and then.
Were you working a 9 to 5 while working on teams, or were you just like strictly being a team?
Holters was full time there. I did everything, the whole program, and that was full time gig there. When I was helping Mulder, it really was, he did all of his own stuff other than like at the track, and if I spotted and if we need to make changes or suspension adjustments, there was that stuff, and then obviously while I was helping Mulder, I was working with Kurt and Kyle. So
yeah.
But yeah, no, I wasn't anything full time until I worked for Holchers.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. That gives a good basis point. Should we go right into Site Lap, which is our 6 questions that we ask every single person we interview? So then it's kind of like the fans and can cross compare what everybody thinks. So, Dave, you want to kick us off with that one?
Yeah. What is your favorite track of all time?
Bark River. For sure, as like an overall track, Bark River. It's raceability and, it's fun to drive. But it really, when the racing's good, you can tell the people and their racecraft shines through at Bark River. There are tracks that are fun to drive that aren't fun to race on.
Yeah.
In my opinion, like ERX is a prime example of that. Like, it's an awesome track to drive on. Like, but when it comes to racing on it, it's so hard to make passes on, especially clean, you know, without contact. That track just invites contact, which
Yeah.
from a spectator's view is probably awesome.
Yeah.
From
The guy that's got to fix it.
yeah, you know,
Not so awesome.
fix it or race it. I mean, it's not necessarily, you know, it can just be super frustrating, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not, you know, if, you know, some people are more aggressive and they don't care, you know, and, you know, or it's not something they worry about as much. And, you know, that's not really my thing. So like, even like Bark River, you know, like last year, you know, if you like for the Pro-Am race, the day that I won, like when I was riding around in third behind Derek and I don't remember who the other person was, Blemke, like in the back, you can just see me. I'm like way wide. I'm like just searching for lines and trying to see where I can make up time on them and where I can't. And like most of the tracks, it's hard to do that on, you know, and that track, it invites being creative and using the whole track. And you just don't get that everywhere where, you know, it's not a power, you know, just who has the most power or who can sustain the most amount of contact. Like it's truly a track that, you know, racecraft is the number one thing that shines through, and that's why it's my favorite. So
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Even as a spectator, you can see that. And I would agree, ERX does give you some crazy wrecks to watch as a spectator.
Yeah, I just think they have a challenging environment just to start off with. Like the rhythm section that has gone through multiple changes, that Talladega corner that has now feels like it's in a good place. But then, I mean, it's gone through 3 renditions as well.
right.
You can even say almost 4, but I mean, it seems like it changes
Yeah.
so often.
Now, if you're gonna ask me like what track was my favorite as far as track prep goes, ERX is by far and away,
Yeah, I think
without a doubt.
that's got some staff reasonings probably.
Yeah, I mean it's down to a science there, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
The dirt is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget the gentleman's name that
So do I.
is in charge of that.
He's such a awesome dude, and they brought him to Glen Helen,
Yeah.
and he did all, and that's why that, you know, I would accredit that to
Yeah.
you know, all the times that I've been to Glen Helen, the track has never been like that.
Yeah, when
So-
I visited that in spring, and that track was in very tough shape.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that we got the greatest track at Glen Helen this year, but I think it was way better than what it started off to be.
Yeah, no, I
So-
mean dirt conditions and stuff. You know, I think layout could be done differently,
Yeah.
but prep wise, other than that, I mean, that was about as I think as good as you could have gotten there.
Yeah. Hard to bring dirt into there. It's you know,
Yeah.
rocks for miles.
Well, that and it just you can't hold moisture in it.
Yeah.
Usually, you know, I mean, my brother builds downhill mountain bike trails in California, and he was telling me that week, you know, they have to really soak stuff in order to get it to break up when you're on the side of a mountain, and he said that they soaked this whole area they were trying to break up to the point where it was like sloppy, wet mud, and within 15 minutes it had all evaporated.
Jeez.
So, like, I mean, that's what you're trying to work with there, you know, trying to get moisture in a track to get it to hold up or just not completely hard pack, you know.
So are we talking like mountain bike,
Like downhill mountain bike.
like jump down the
Oh,
side?
yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's insane. Like, I've nope.
So have you done that downhill?
No, I actually, I would like to get into mountain biking and doing that, but it's just something that I haven't got into. He's really into it, obviously, and loves to do it, and you know, it's definitely a cool thing. And we were actually, when we went to Glen Helen, was the first time we actually got to see all that in person since he's been living out there.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's gnarly. I mean, there's some massive jumps that he's built and stuff, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, it's nothing that I would want to hit right now. That's
Every time I see it, I go, those people are crazy.
Yeah, you'll find me maybe in the woods on a bike,
right.
going on through some trails, but you ain't gonna catch me on no side of the mountain. Be my luck, I crash into rattlesnakes there.
Yeah.
Which one are you looking forward to the most in the released schedule?
Track wise,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Bark River's my favorite, so I like that. But honestly, I really like Wheatland, even though I only got like 3 laps. But I think that track is a really cool mix of everything. It's got so many different sections and and I don't even like the tight section. I know for some of the bigger guys is bigger vehicles is not as fun, but I feel like in almost any form of motorsport, you have like tracks that have a good combination of everything or what bring out the best. Like I know you can't pass at every single corner, but sometimes that's the way it is,
Yeah.
But I think that track's pretty cool, and the fact that it's how it's laid out and how you can see everything, and the over unders, and it's different than what we have here, and it's a long lap. So.
Yeah.
I hope we get there and we don't deal with rain this year.
Yeah,
It would be nice.
Me too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if that lip wasn't as big.
yeah, yeah, that's gnarly. I think there's a few people that feel that way.
Yeah. Our second question was what track's the toughest to drive, but I think we might have
Toughest
answered.
to drive?
Yeah. I don't know if that fell under the ERX conversation.
No, I mean ERX isn't tough to drive. I feel like it's harder to race on than some.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think in a weird way, in a side-by-side, Anago's kind of tricky. Not necessarily from a technical perspective, but like the ruts that form in that corner, if you got to see like an in-car or something of like, as you're flying around the sweeper onto what would be the front stretch, you're catching that as you're going around, and it's throwing you, and you're kind of like right there waiting to have to like turn out of a bike. So I mean, if it ruts up hard, I mean it gets kind of, it's interesting. We don't get that everywhere. So I feel like to me that's probably one that would catch people out. But I remember thinking that in the car and being like, I just need to be ready to catch this thing if it wants to tip over on me. But
That's a good point because that is such a big corner. And
you carry a ton of speed through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the left-hander going to the back section, that one I caught a rut, biked it, and I was trying to balance it to set it down but not hit the wall. Well, I hit the wall. But I didn't roll it over.
Yeah.
That's a plus, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a fan of the off-road racing, what's one class you try to travel up to the grandstands to watch if you're able to on the race weekend?
I might be kind of biased, but mod cart, for the most part, there's some people who, and it's hard, in mod cart because you do have people that separate themselves just based on, it's still a class that you can, the chassis layout is what it is, but you can change stuff within it.
Yeah.
And setup and gearing is so important. And, there's obviously different levels of people learning that in that class, but there's a lot of good racing that happens. Even the short course carts, there's a lot of, kids who have come up through it who, there's a lot of good, clean racing, through that class. And, I think that's pretty easily one of my, sportsman classes, that, I like to go up and watch because there's a lot of fast kids and it's usually pretty exciting, you know. So
That for sure is, we have a list of classes we get up to for the races every time, and that's on our list too. We always try to make mod cart if we can.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, though. They're learning gearing, and that's on the dad or the technician and the kid too, but suspension setup. And then now we have 2 different engine packages, so.
Yeah, and I think everybody's pretty much on the 450s. I don't think anybody's...
There's still a bunch on the 400s yet, but they're pretty much slowly converting. But
So,
yeah.
and even with that, that's, you can mount them kind of how you want in there, and you know, and it's definitely one of those classes where there is different stuff, but it's such a learning class that it's interesting to watch sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Who is a legend of the sport that was highly impactful, is highly impactful, but doesn't always get like the recognition in the limelight?
God, I don't. I guess the only one that really comes to mind right away would be Mark Steinhardt.
Okay. Yeah.
He's
That's a good one.
You know, he's been around forever. He has a ton of accolades, you know, and you know, even if he's not what he once was, he's still out there and performing, you know, and someone who's done, you know, pretty much all his own stuff, and you know, it's not someone who's, you know, super. If you're inside the sport, you know, at least know of him, right? You know, but if you didn't race buggies or super pay attention to buggies a lot, you know, maybe you don't know a ton, but he's there's no doubt he's a legend for sure. You know?
Yeah. Well, he just won. Didn't you just win the championship?
It would have been 2023. He won the championship.
2023. Yeah. Okay. He was pretty high up in points this year, if I remember correctly. No, I can't remember.
I would have to go look. Now you're testing.
I'm guessing he was probably fourth or fifth, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was pretty high up there.
Yeah. Well,
Find out.
Because I mean, it was Chaden, Jordan, Booth.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
it was fourth or fifth, probably.
Yeah, you're right. That now that's coming back to me. Yeah, fourth or fifth, but it sounds about right. Well, he
might have dropped out farther than that because he didn't race Glen Helen, and him and Cole got tangled on the start of one of the races.
Yeah, I think going into Crandon, he was in the top 3 maybe, or the top 4 maybe.
Definitely not top 3. It would have been top, because I mean Jordan, Chaden, and Booth were.
Oh
been
yeah,
in the
that's
top
right. They
3
were always
almost the
well.
whole year, so.
Yep.
He was 6.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, still up there. I'm gonna call that still up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, David's got the next one here.
Yeah. So 10 years from now, when you look back at what you've done in racing, what do you want to say you accomplished in off-road racing?
Well, I guess firstly, I'd like to, you know, hope that I'm still doing what I'm doing. You know, I've been blessed enough since starting my business to, you know, be doing it full time, and you know, been what I feel is successful so far, and so yeah, definitely that, you know, first and foremost, and then I guess I would like to hopefully have some type of success, you know, driving. You know, that would be my other thing, my other I guess dream, you could say, but that's what I would say with that.
Yeah. It's hard to juggle both of those aspects too. So
Very.
if you achieve it, that's definitely a certain thing, something to hang your hat on.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you feel being a mechanic kind of gives you a leg up, an advantage when it comes to actually being behind the wheel?
Yes and no. I think there's probably a lot of good mechanics that can't drive, or not as well as people who are just behind the wheel.
Yeah.
For certain things, like I said, yeah, probably, but I don't think the two always correlate. But it helps, I think, you know, but there's only so much. It's so hard because there's only so much you can do from the cockpit.
Yeah.
And especially when you're in it, you know, I think the hardest thing is if you are the mechanic and you're the driver as well, because you need somebody else's eyes to tell you other things that are happening with the car that you're used to just you know, seeing from the stands or, you know, wherever that you can watch the attitude of the car. You don't know always all the inputs that are being, you know, done to it to make it act the way it is, but you know that, you know, that's the biggest thing. Like I always, I got to work with John and CJ for, I don't know, was it a couple months maybe, at one point when the series was in limbo, and I got to go out west with them. It was the last time they went out and ran the Lucas Cup race.
Okay.
It was at Lake Elsinore, but we were testing there, and I always remember Johnny telling me that, you know, there's a reason that CJ's truck always looks better than his, and it's because he can't watch his own truck while he's driving it.
Oh, it's, yeah.
You know, so like when it comes to like suspension and stuff like that, or just like I said, like seeing the attitude or how, you know, certain bumps affect it, or, you know, just all that stuff that goes into making a vehicle perform, you know, it's hard to do when you're in it. And if you don't have someone's eyes or mind that kind of works the same as yours on the outside, then
Yeah.
you're kind of on your own, you know?
Yeah. I think being the mechanic too, you're consciously thinking about what's going to break, stuff like that too, that might hold you back from, you know, overdriving the car.
You know, I feel that's more of a budget thing.
Yeah, that's true too.
Like, you know, I mean, it's if you have the budget to fix the car and you have the skills to fix it, obviously you don't want to, at least I don't want to go out and break stuff.
Yeah, not on purpose.
Right,
Yeah.
you know, so but like if I feel that, you know, I put the car together and I trust what I did and I trust the parts that are on it, then there's no point to not push it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't, but pushing it as far as like making contact with other people is not, that's not what I'm getting at.
That's
But
not
like,
the same concept.
yeah,
no.
you know, so that's two different things that way. But like, I don't know. I guess I can't really think of a time where the only time I've ever really thought about that is when I was like, I had a lead and I could probably save a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't have to be on the chip
Yeah.
all the time right now. You know, like I could back off a little bit and still be okay and not feel like I'm beating the absolute crap out of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, little off subject mechanic question here. On a scale of 1 to 10, when you're watching movies and action scene comes up with cars and they have 13 gears or they're just revs are way off or noises are way off, how annoyed are you? 10 being you're turning it off.
So when I was younger, I like probably the first 3 Fast and Furious movies.
Yeah.
But like I can't watch car movies like at all anymore. Like even like the new F1 movie or any of the, what was the other one that came out?
Need for Speed, I think.
I did watch that one, and it was actually, I thought, more accurate than probably the Fast and Furious movies were to me, because there was just mostly supercars and, you know, whatever. But I mean, I don't know. You know, it's a cinematic thing, and
Yeah.
you know, it's whatever. It's those are basically cult classics at this point. So
I don't think I've watched a Fast and the Furious since Tokyo Drift or something like that.
yeah, I think it was close. I think Fast. I don't know. I think the 6th one is where I stopped, and then after that, it just whatever the last one in that Paul was in.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't after that. After like he passed away and stuff, I didn't really feel any need to watch him.
I started losing interest when they went into outer space. Like the cars went into outer space. I was like, wait, why?
Yeah, I didn't even know that happened. So
didn't
you've gotten further than I.
Yeah.
So, how did you find yourself in the fabrication business?
So I, out of school, went to college for welding. So I, very contrary to most people in off-road, I had a normal fabrication job for a lot of years, and then obviously had some different opportunities that came up. But I actually, growing up, you know, it wasn't race cars, but, you know, we had, my grandpa one of my grandpas was a heavy diesel mechanic.
Okay.
So we had an old Caterpillar dozer. We had a Huff payloader. All that stuff. So I was always in the building with my dad and fixing stuff, building stuff. If we needed something, we built it. Where I grew up, my dad's house, we burn wood in the winter, and it heats the hot water and the house and part of the shop. So I spent a lot of time splitting wood, but we still made trailers to move wood back and forth, like small conveyors, stuff that makes life easier. But that's kind of how I. And my dad's eyes aren't very good, so like as soon as he kind of showed me the basics of welding, and I caught on and can do it. Whatever needed to be built, I was there doing what I could. So that's kind of how I grew up with that. And then it was oddly enough, that wasn't my first choice for school. I actually was more interested in the automotive stuff, mechanical that way, because I always knew like I could do that on the side. And I actually was on the waiting list for a new program at Fox Valley Tech that was an automotive import technician. I didn't really want to work on American stuff. And so welding at TC was a 1-year course at that point. And so my plan was to go there and do that because there was a year wait for the other course. And I just did the welding thing, and I had a job before I even graduated that was going to pay way more than starting off as a automotive technician. So that's the route that I went.
And we have similar paths, except I did the automotive side. But my dad had the same equipment too, like the same brands you were talking, the Huff 60 and a dozer, all that other stuff. So that's cool. Who is, in your opinion, who's the best fabricator in the Midwest?
The best fabricator? Wow, that's a loaded question.
It is.
I don't know. I mean, there's not that many of us, really. I mean, who are like, I mean, there's people who do it on the side and whatever, but like as full-time gigs, I mean, I don't know if who's the best, but I mean, I would say, Mikey's all around, got to be up there, if not the best. Brad, who does, all Johnny's stuff, he's, up there. Kurt, back when he could see stuff, was a good welder and fabricator. And
man, vision's becoming a pattern in this family. You got glasses or contacts in?
I have contacts.
Yeah.
Actually, my eyes have gotten better.
Yeah, mine's gotten worse, so.
But, I mean, those guys for sure have been, obviously doing it for a long time. The Kincaids, Jeff, builds a lot of stuff. I guess that's it, I don't want to call Mikey old because he's not old, but as far as people who've been doing it for a long time, like those guys are kind of the pillar. And obviously, like, Johnny G throws tubes and does stuff and, does all that, but, and does some welding, but not to the effect I feel like that, obviously Brad does. And Devin's, Devin does a lot of fab stuff too and is a good welder. And, obviously Kyle, can, does everything, and then, Ben Alcox, he can, he can fabricate too. So, Luke Stubbs over there likes to break stuff, and he's got to fix it. So
and then Fitz, if
Oh yeah,
I don't know
Fitz
if
for
that's
sure.
I don't know if that's Midwest. He's kind of
He's kind of south.
central, whatever
Yeah.
that is. I guess Nebraska.
I think we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and we were talking how there's just not that many people that do it, and
Well,
like you were kind of talking about.
You know, it's such a niche thing, right? And it's not, there's a lot of people who can fabricate. Like that's not always the issue. But we have such an abusive sport that and it's so, everything gets tested, and it's something, that even it's one thing to build something for yourself, right? Like that you're going to put yourself in, but like the thing that, really, as far as how I've done things and, my reputation or whatever, like when I build things for people's kids, which I do quite a bit of, and I've done quite a bit of in the past, that's the biggest telltale sign if someone trusts you or not, right? Like they'll throw themselves in anything, but when somebody puts their kid in something, like there better not be any corners cut. You don't want that. If you don't think you are up to it, or know that you're up to it, I mean that's something that people should obviously stay away from. But to me, that's the people that have trusted me to do it, or all up till a couple of years ago, I built, I had a hand in pretty much all the welding on almost all the mod cart chassis. And I've watched a number of those take some pretty crazy rolls, and never had anything that I know of fail to a certain extent. But I mean that's it's so niche, and then the mechanical thing kind of goes in with it, right? Like you learn about what's necessary, what's not, but just the anal retentiveness that you have to have on a race vehicle is
Paying attention to every single detail.
Everything matters. If it's not necessary, it wouldn't be there. So it's like every bolt nut, how you take it off, how you put it on, the order of things going on, and it's so, you can look at it as it's just a race car. It's going to get dirty. It's going to get beat up, or it's like it's a race car. Everything needs to be perfect. And it's two very different philosophies. But it's just something that and two, like it's such a small community, right? Like if you come out as like I can build this and I can build this and I can build this, and you do, and then stuff fails or it doesn't perform, like it's not that hard to see. Everybody runs to the things that are most successful. So if you have a poor showing, or don't come through on what you say or whatever, I mean word gets around, and there's a lot of self-selection that's involved with that, and then obviously when you get to the point of just now having to pay someone to do that, it's not cheap either, but quality comes with that. And you can see by the people who have built stuff and the crashes that happen, and and people walk out okay. I mean, that's worth every penny. So
Yeah, that's what a couple of episodes ago we were talking about safety, and that's the biggest thing. Like, where do you value your own safety? And trusting someone that's building it safe is huge in the sport.
Right.
Yeah. So what is your preference of fabrication? From scratch builds or repairs, modifications, tube construction?
I don't know if I really have a preference. I don't. It's pretty easy to tell when I talk to someone about a project or something that they talked about. Like, if I'm not going to do anything that's unsafe or cut corners with. So if you're not going to do like the bare minimum things, I'm not even going to do it. But I don't know if I really have a favorite. I mean, anything, I have good customers, and I'm lucky to have a lot of them, and I don't really, whatever they need me to do, I'll do it. Most of my builds are always on stuff that's used.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of, Kyle does some, but like, and then CJ's, most of the stuff that CJ and Johnny do are all like brand new side by sides, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my stuff is more of like, stuff that's been raced for 5 years and they want to update stuff, or, they find a machine for cheap and want to put a cage and stuff on it, more of the grassroots stuff that, not everybody's doing brand new builds on, and so I'm used to doing that. Is it, it's always interesting when you get to cut into a brand new machine. It's not something I get to do every day, but, and I haven't been to the point where Mikey's, where he does trucks from the ground up,
Yeah.
but, at some point, yeah, it would be cool to do. It's a massive undertaking,
Oh, yeah.
and you got to have the, not only the knowledge, but the infrastructure, to do it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So, like, being a fabricator and welder, when you're at the track or maybe even everyday life, are you like often looking at welds and
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, I mean, you always look at stuff and
Even when you go out to the restaurant on a date with your
sure, yeah,
girlfriend,
yeah.
and
At
the
an
hand railing.
amusement park, I mean, wherever. I mean, you're always looking at how stuff is built and who got it, got the boogers on there. So
Yeah, I don't ride roller coasters for a reason.
I always find it interesting too, like at a track if there's a wreck, like all the people that are surround the vehicle to look at the welds and stuff. Like it's just that's an interesting thing that happens in the sport.
yeah, and I mean tech has to, or they need to, because they need to make sure, that's the hard thing right now when you don't have, necessarily specified builders, or required people to do the builds. I mean, you're trusting that people, when they come to the track and their cages are, people welded them who knew what they were doing, or,
Yeah.
and built them, knew what they were doing. And so you gotta, and they always want to see, for if certain impacts and rules and stuff, what holds up and what doesn't, and if they need to make changes, and stuff like that. So, and yeah, it's always interesting. And I mean, that stuff gets around too. If stuff fails, like dramatically, then, I mean, obviously that's gonna make the rounds.
Yeah, that's
pretty
red
quickly.
flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always seen where like big wrecks, they'll take and inspect the vehicle
Mhm.
afterwards. I don't know whatever comes of it, but
Yeah, I mean, they at least look at it and, look at what held up and where it got hit and everything like that. So,
yeah. Yep. So you've kind of gone through the, like, how JSpec has kind of become what it is, just through the evolution of the career paths you've taken and the customers you've gathered. But what is like the toughest part about being self-employed?
Initially it's obviously finding work, I mean, it sounds basic, but I mean, you have to, obviously you're in charge of, your time is your income, and, you have to make sure that you have stuff to build. And that's, it's not always easy, to do, without, any sort of real massive reputation, in the sport, especially not racing. I mean, I had done 2 races for Jim, I don't even remember what year that was, 2019 or something.
2019.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yep.
But other than that, I didn't really I had no other driving experience on the track, so not like where kind of, with John and CJ, where obviously their years of winning, helps them sell cars and build cars, and same with Kyle. I mean, he was doing it before he drove, obviously, but then once he started racing and he had success, I mean, that just, it helps, you know.
Yeah.
People want what you have, and, you know, then you can do that, you know.
Yeah.
So me taking the route I did, and even like with Mikey too, right? I mean, his dad raced, and, you know, you had that pedigree of success and knowing how to do things and learning how to do things through that aspect. So not really having any of that to lean on, and really just solely, you know, either people, you know, taking a chance in me, or just from talking to them, or, you know, whatever, you know, and being able to build a little bit of a following that way, basically just through success, really.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know another word for it, but that was probably more or less the hardest thing initially, you know. And now I'm kind of to the point where, like, the hardest thing is finding people who you can trust to, you know, to help, you know,
Yeah.
or, you know, to possibly employ. So that's the new biggest hurdle.
Yeah, I don't envy you in that one. So what's the most rewarding part then?
I would say the most rewarding part would be like when, you know, when a customer comes back. You know, I've been, like I said, I've been blessed with some really great customers who've become, you know, friends and stuff. And, you know, I would say that's probably one of, you know, my most rewarding things, is that almost everything I've ever done for customers, they've always came back, you know. So I would say that's, you know, that's probably one of the most rewarding things. And then probably the other rewarding thing is when, you know, you're building someone for someone, or you're doing something and you're like, if I did this, it would be like, you know, you're trying to convince them of something that would be night and day difference, and, you know, they do it, and then they just
Comes to fruition.
yeah, you know, that's pretty cool. Especially when, you know, like I said, a lot of the stuff I've done a lot for the kids classes. So like, that's, you know, when you're working with, you know, kids and parents, in that aspect, and when, you know, they take your input and it does work, you know, is pretty cool. And just to see them succeed, you know, I mean, that's, watching stuff that you've built succeed on the track is very gratifying. So
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
So if you could turn back time, would you do it all over again?
yeah, I mean, I as of right now, I wouldn't change anything. You know, I mean, it's with all the, you know, the ups and downs that I've had, and, you know, some pretty dark moments over the years of not knowing and trying to figure out what I want to do, and or how to do it. You know, I can't complain where I'm at. So
What's the 5 to 10 year plan for J-Spec?
I don't know. It you know, I'd like to keep going, you know, where I'm at. I don't want to be, you know, massive, but it would be nice to be able to sustain, you know, a couple employees.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't need to do any more than that, you know. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, enough to keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I'm not, I'm definitely not in it for the money. You know,
I was just about to say, I think this is more of a passion thing than it is of a financial thing. Obviously, there's money to be made, but it's not like
there is, but it's not. You know, I'm you know, get away with certain things, and, you know, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes in it too. I mean, that, you know, your summers are spoken for. I mean, it's every day of the week. You know, you're working, and, you know, it's sometimes you're not getting home, you know, till really late. And, you know, if, you know, I'm lucky that my family, you know, puts up with that. And
that's very key.
Yeah, and that they enjoy being at the track because, obviously if they, if that was something they didn't want to do, then it really,
reduces the time even more.
It sucks some of the joy out of it. It's obviously when I'm at the track, I'm still technically working, but there's still fun to be had. But if family doesn't want to be there, then now it's definitely just job. So. Which, if you ask some people, they would say that I never look like I'm enjoying being at the track, but I do.
You got that serious face on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost always, yeah.
Yeah, when you're self-employed or you own a business, it's like that iceberg picture that they always show or poster. That's like the top that shows all the wins and good times, and you got to leave for a few days, and you left early a couple times or showed up late, and then everything under the water is you stayed there until midnight
right.
or past. You've worked weekends, you've missed family events. It's just they all just rack up.
Yeah, and obviously being in Wisconsin, it doesn't help anything that our race season takes up the only real usable time for the most part. Outside that you can do stuff. Especially family things. So, it's all a sacrifice. And it, even like the traveling aspect. Like growing up, being a fan of it, and I just remember being in high school and even like through college and stuff, like, people wanted to travel and take vacations and stuff. And, I always remember thinking that if I accomplished what I wanted to, travel's going to be a part of it, and I'm going to get sick of it.
Yeah.
And, luckily that kind of came to fruition, but like, I do get to travel a decent amount for races and stuff. And, luckily that's a part that comes with it, and unluckily that's a part that comes with it. So,
yeah. Well, you'll get to drive to California, I'm assuming,
again
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you passed us on the way there.
Yeah.
Gotta slow that thing down.
Cruise is set.
What do you do for fun then if you're not at the track? You're not building race cars. What is it that you kind of relax?
I enjoy watching all forms. I shouldn't say all forms. A lot of different forms of racing. I like Supercross, motocross, F1. I'm a massive fan. I will basically watch every practice, qualifying, session. I love that. I'm actually going to the Vegas F1 race.
I was just about to ask if you were going to go to that. Yeah.
My first one I've ever been to. So I'm going with Jordan Bernlohr. So,
awesome.
But yeah, so that I like that. I like other sports too. Pretty big football fan, and
so you're a Packers fan?
Yeah, I'm a pretty big Packers fan.
You can say like different. Yeah. It seemed like you had a gun to your head there.
No, I enjoy the sport. I actually got like a group of guys that I game with too.
Oh, cool.
So I do that to try and shut off, and I try to disconnect what I can, when I'm at home, because it is stressful. And I'm learning to deal with that. It's especially running a business and stuff. And with this, it's a lot. Especially when you're the one in charge of ordering everything. You're the one keeping up on parts, making sure we have stock of certain things, or having to order stuff ahead of time, or because that's the thing. Like off-road racing, like some of the side-by-side stuff. Obviously there's off-the-shelf stuff, but like some of this other stuff, like if you don't get it out and get it inspected to get your parts ordered, it's like now you're behind the ball and stuff's getting rushed, and
or even custom fab stuff. Like,
right? Yeah.
You need the Heims, you need the material. Sometimes it's all laser cut out, and that has to be sent out, and it's a process. And
right.
Yeah. I tell you what, I think your first employee probably should be like billing, because me as a small business owner, that is my nightmare. Like if I can have somebody else do that and disconnect me from the actual cost of everything,
Yeah, no, I mean, and if I, like I said, I have a lot of repeat customers, so like it's not awful. If I had more products that I sold individually, kind of like you have, I would that might be more. I would probably feel the same way.
Yeah.
But I feel that way. I've got a certain. What really really stresses me out is taxes at the end of the year.
Oh yeah.
All the receipts, because I do all of that, and enter everything that I have, and that's the worst part over the summer, keeping track of all that stuff, and that's definitely a learning curve that nothing really prepares you for.
Yeah, I schedule out like a week around tax time that I just got to sit there and go on the computer and click all the buttons.
Yep, me too.
All right,
it's like a cram period of like a week and a half of like finding everything, tracking everything down, and entering it.
You tell yourself next year I'm doing this every week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you tell yourself that the same thing next year.
Yeah. Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's what you were talking about before, Scott. Like that's who I have to do my taxes too.
Yeah.
And so like every year, it's like clockwork. I'll get a hold of him because I'm like I'm missing something, or like is it okay if I do it like this? And every time I'll like go in to like hand in all my stuff, and he's like, "Oh no, you did a really good job," and it's like. I always feel like I'm just awful, and I'm just, making it way harder on him. But
yeah.
So, spinning back to you were talking about the F1 race. Just from like the technology standpoint in F1, like what are your thoughts about how crazy technology is in that sport?
It's insane. It's wild that nothing, and it's obviously they had to once they cut down like on all their testing time. They had to find different means of trying to develop stuff, right? Which it is insane though, like how much is just all, so much data and, how the stuff is developed and, all the aero. I mean, I really wish that, like, because I love like even the GT stuff and just how those cars are made and just the aero, and they just look so sick. Like just all, you see like some of those like Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff that are just like full GT3 cars that are just, they're just so cool to just look at sitting still, It's like all that stuff works together somehow.
Oh, they look like they're going 100 miles an hour sitting still.
And it's like, God, I so wish we could do that in off-road, but we got roost and dirt and mud.
Yeah.
It doesn't help aerodynamics at all, so...
Yeah, it's like the part that always floors me too in F1, their pit stops.
Yeah.
Like they could go back-to-back pit stops is like 5 seconds for 2 pit stops.
Yeah.
It's like, how?
Yeah.
That's probably even slow. 5 seconds is probably slow. It's
one lug nut.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That helps.
Yeah. No, that, because they have what? They have almost like 15 guys for a stop, I think, isn't it?
Oh, is it that many?
Yeah.
So that's not like NASCAR where one.
That's the biggest difference. Like I don't remember what it was, or even for IndyCar, there was I don't remember what it was. It was somebody comparing pit stops and why F1's so fast. Well, they have literally like 10 to 15 guys.
Yeah, I think they have like auto jacks and stuff too, don't they? Like they hook the hose in and then.
On F1?
Yeah.
No, they just have the front and rear. There's guys with.
Oh, okay.
It looks like a hand jack almost, but they just go under the back and they leverage.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's it.
All right.
And isn't there a guy on each tire?
Indy has the jacks.
Indy has the jacks, yeah.
Yeah. There's a guy on each tire in, I think, F1.
Each tire
Has
and then
at least
each
2.
gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where NASCAR, I don't know if I haven't watched NASCAR.
It's one per corner.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they have one lug nut.
Yeah.
Or whatever you call that.
Yeah.
Center nut. I don't know if you call it a lug nut.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like the good old days.
Yeah.
Where there was
Yeah. Everything was glued on. And
yeah.
I'm sure somebody will do that. In off-road at some point. Lug nuts that stay in the wheels. Guns, some type of, more pneumatic. People already do it sometimes, with some of the air jacks that they have, and they have a nitrogen bottle on them so they can go up super fast.
Yeah. Henderson and I'm forgetting the other, but they run nitrogen impacts too.
Yeah.
So it's like the, yeah. Way too fancy. They'll
there's
never
pit
beat the
team.
pit slit. They'll never beat the pit slits anyways.
I was just gonna say that's the type of upgrades they need.
Yeah.
So Jordan isn't down there throwing his arm.
The problem with that is they would have that nitrogen powered impact, and about, I don't know, around midnight they'd be trying to hook it up to the axle of their pit bikes to go fast or something. So maybe that's why they don't have it.
Probably.
But so we were just talking about how you're going to F1 with the burn lowers. So what has your involvement been with the burn lowers? It's been a couple years now that you've been kind of a piece of their team. You want to kind of dive into that and give us some insight to what's been in the works for the last couple of years?
So basically, Mark Steinhardt had reached out to me that he had someone who had reached out to him that was looking for someone to prep cars and through that aspect. And it was Brian, Cole and Jordan's dad.
Yeah.
And basically they had gotten away from short course racing for quite a few years, and he wanted to get Cole and Jordan back into it because he had done it. He raced in the Stadium Series way back in the day with the buggies, and when they're traveling around and everything. And then his dad actually raced he had pictures of his dad on the front stretch at Crandon way back when too. So, I mean, there's, a lot of, say a lot, but there's family history there, racing short course. And, they did a bunch of things. Jordan has a bunch of different things that he did with road racing and some desert stuff. But essentially that's how it started. Bought a couple Fodral chassis, and initially it was I just had them every couple of races because they live in Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
So they would take them home for some and leave them for a couple, and then once they kind of got more into it, or I should say more into it, but they were wanted to get more serious about it. Brian bought 2 Alumacraft chassis, and then they basically over the past 2 years, I do all. They don't go back with them at all. They stay at my shop, their hauler, their trailer, and I take care of everything year round, and bring it to the track, set up the pit, all the whole show.
So they're almost full on arrive and drive at this point.
Yeah, as much as they can be. I mean, they have they got a lot going on themselves. They own multiple businesses. And, it's one of those things that if you want to do it to have fun, you can. It's doable. If you want to run for a championship, it's hard. Yeah. There's just certain things that you don't have time for. They, I'm obviously super grateful that they trust me with everything, and that it works out for both sides, and it helps that it's luckily it's just a awesome family, and they're great people. They're more than customers now. They're friends. So it's been a really great thing. All around.
Yeah, we've spent some time at your pit talking with them around the campfire and hearing some good stories about mainly some desert stories.
They got all kinds of desert stories.
Those are the ones that
some crazy desert stories
seem to be the funniest and most exciting.
Yeah, I mean they've definitely had some crazy. I don't know what you want to call it. Breaks, disasters.
Yeah.
In the desert.
Yeah.
They try and do the Mint 400 every year. They have a Class 10. And it seems like there's always, as it always seems to be with desert stuff, there's just everybody's got some wild, off the shelf kind of thing that happens to them in the middle of nowhere.
Well, when you drive out into the desert,
at night.
Right.
there tends to be problems. But yeah. Let me see which one we did not answer yet here. How is it juggling doing all that for them and then also trying to run your program?
It's, my stuff is secondary. There was, obviously this last year I did not race very much because I was injured, but when I did race the year prior, there was times where, their stuff, and I don't go any faster on it, like when I'm prepping it, like I do all their stuff as if it was my own, and and if that takes whatever time it takes, and so there's a lot of times where by the time their stuff is all done, loaded up, ready to go, it's Monday the week of the race where I'm okay. Now I got to cut the front off of my car and fix it. It is what it is. I can't. They're paying me to do it, and it requires my attention and all of it. So, and that's also the unfortunate part of being your only person there. One man show. So that's what it comes down to. There's no real way around it. Obviously than trying to get more people, but that takes a lot of other resources as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
But no, it sucks, but if that's what I'm going to do, that's how I got to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Still not a bad day of working on buggies.
No, it could be doing a lot worse things. So
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
So, with that relationship that you've built with them, has there been any like competitive go-karting, or like have you got a chance to race them in anything since you're not in the same class?
I actually have not. So they own Pro Kart indoors in Burnsville, Minnesota, and Brian actually has a couples race for his birthday every year. Oh. And when Emmy and I went there, not last year, but the year prior, both Cole and Jordan just had babies, so their wives weren't able to race, and so I was not able to race against Cole and Jordan at that point. No, technically I've raced against Jordan before. The one time when I had to fill in for Cole at Bark River.
Oh yeah.
But obviously, first time in a pro buggy, it's not.
Yeah. How was that experience then, like from a UTV to a pro buggy?
They aren't similar in any way, like not one way.
Yeah.
They are completely different. Side by side is so twitchy, and also has like a ton of feedback. Every input you put in it, it gives something back to you. So it's I feel that it's very easy to read, and you're on the limit, constantly. But in the pro stock class or even pro am sportsman, like you're underpowered to a certain extent. So you have to be on the limit, but you have to be smooth at the same time. That's where your speed is. But in the buggy, it soaks up everything. And it's really hard to tell, like the first time being in the car, it's hard to tell when you're by yourself, cornering if you're not by anyone, like where your speed is lost or gained, because being sideways, it's like, okay, well, I could throw this harder, I could be straighter, but what's
Where's
the fastest
the
way through here?
Yeah,
it's not even momentum. It's just it's like smoothness, and without like, when you're in a race with someone, it's easier to gauge to a certain extent because obviously you have your gaps. And then that was the first thing I ever drove with a turning brake. So that was really interesting to do that. But luckily, I've had really good luck with our cars turning very well. And we just don't have to use that very often.
Okay.
So that made my life easier, but it was very, it was cool. I mean, Brian keeps trying to coax me to race one, but I can't do it. When I can't give them 100% of, what I feel, I can provide and be in the same class. So that's, but it would be cool to do. That's for sure. I would, if as far as a class that's a pro level class that is competitive and equally competitive, you almost can't beat it. It's almost cheaper than a side by side.
Yeah.
As far as like throughout the year and like consumables and stuff, you don't break a lot of things. I mean, obviously you can break stuff, but if you have like, you can run on the same motor for a couple years. I mean, the transmissions are pretty well done as long as you're not missing gears. You're good. I mean, obviously there are things that breaks and stuff that happens, but like, you can really, at the end of the day, you could get in and have a lot of fun and be in a competitive car, cost wise.
Yeah.
It's actually really affordable in the long run. The initial investment is probably a little bit more than a side-by-side, but I would say over, like if you were, I'd say 2 to 3 years that you're going to be cheaper than the side-by-side was.
And if you're a fabricator, then you can make some components of the vehicle.
Yeah, but
So-
even that, like, we really don't go through a lot of parts.
Yeah.
I mean, this year was probably the worst year we had that way. We had a bunch of just odd mechanical failures. But, that's what happens sometimes. But for the most part, I mean, for the past, 3-4 years, I mean, you can really run. I mean, shoot, when what was it, 2 years ago for Mid-America, when we went to Mid-America track?
Yeah.
Or was it 3 years ago?
That was 23.
23, so almost 3 years ago. But Cole ran the same set of rear tires up until that point.
Wow.
The whole year, which is like unheard of in a pro buggy, but like that's, I mean, not that it was the best or, the fastest all the time, but he was still competitive. I mean, he still ended up on the podium, at Mid-America, but it's like, it's doable with the right setup, and that's, I know there's people that are going through tires all the time and, we were more aggressive this year with that, but, you can really, as far as a pro class goes, it's easily one of the most affordable over a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's good information to. I mean, for somebody that's juggling between that and probably pro spec is probably the only other one that's closer, and unless you put the UTV aspect in.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's just so hard. I mean, I watch people, want to jump into that, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never been around a truck program before,
Yeah.
and you want to be competitive. I mean, if you're just the weekend warrior that wants to do it, and you're really balling on a budget, is it impossible? No.
Yeah.
But it's a lot especially if you don't have like a crew.
Yeah.
I mean,
Crew is the biggest thing from racing a light buggy to racing a Pro 4. Crew is everything.
yeah, I mean, it only gets more important as your vehicles grow, I mean, not just having bodies, having people that you can trust to problem solve and fix things, to a certain extent. So it's a lot, man. I mean, I always look at it obviously from a competitive aspect.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a big step for, like I said, like people that, have never been part of that before. It is overwhelmingly a lot of work.
Yeah. And if you don't do the maintenance, it's gonna find you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's gonna be, then you're gonna be looking at something that's, now this is worn out, this is worn out, this is worn out. It's gonna be,
And
yeah.
yeah, and if
lot of
that's
cleaning.
if you're lucky to get to that point.
Yeah, a lot of
Usually
cleaning, a lot of maintenance. Yeah.
it wears out and you wreck because something broke or something, and then you have a whole nother set of problems.
So, you mentioned that you couldn't race in the same class. You wouldn't want to race in the same class because you wouldn't want to stress yourself out, or stress the whole program out. Is anybody by chance moving to another class, or?
There may or may not be a burn lore in a Pro 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think we've seen some Instagram posting. So,
Yeah, that's in the works. I can't say for sure that it's going to be, at a track this year or not.
Okay. But there's one in their possession.
There's one there, yeah.
Awesome.
There's one in the shop right now.
Awesome. So now you're going to be one of those truck guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have a whole herd of Pro 2 guys here pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, are you ready to, like, from going from the buggies to the truck, like, feel you're prepared?
Not yet, no. I mean, me personally, like, obviously there's a lot of learning to do, but I do have a concept of, what, infrastructure-wise, what that's going to take, and that's the biggest, besides money, that's,
A huge part of it.
Right. I mean, it's, something when I was talking to those guys, I was like, walk down pit lane and you look at everybody who's running a Pro 2. All those guys are there to work on that truck. Like, that's what it takes. I mean, you look at people who are only running a truck. I mean, whether it's, Kyle or Corey, or, or even over by Rosales, and Mikey. And I mean, they all have, an infrastructure of people who are there to help. And, it takes a lot of people, and that is a hard thing to, accumulate, with the snap of a finger, and there's just no need to rush it either, as exciting as it is. You want to come out prepared, and I always, I always reference like how Mickey has, over the years stepped up into things.
Yeah.
He's always came out
Prepared.
swinging.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, look at Wheatland this year.
yeah, I mean, it obviously he had his struggles during the year, but I mean, it whether, from when you went to the Pro Light to the Pro 2, I mean, they didn't start that program until he was, and when they did start it, I mean, it was, he came out guns blazing, and, and it looks, from a professional aspect, it looks way better. You don't want to be that team that's out there with not the right, awning or tools, or, running around because they don't know how to fix their own truck. Like,
Yeah. They got to outsource stuff. Yeah.
right. And I mean, okay, it happens. Sometimes you need something and you got to go big, but, there are things that, you got to be there and be prepared for if you want to run. So.
I think there's a good group of like specialists in the race community that, like, if you have a converter issue, or if you have,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
final drive issues, stuff like that,
Motor.
like there's specialists that are within the community,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to be at least versed on all that.
Right. I mean, it's a learning curve for everyone,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, making sure that they're comfortable in the truck, and, that we know, we have an idea of when things do go wrong, where we need to, what area we need to attack, and, that we have the parts and the infrastructure to fix it when we need to,
Yeah.
And also for me, like, we're actually expanding the shop in order to fit stuff.
More vehicles.
Yeah. So
That's a great stressful thing.
yeah, and again, our season runs all summer, and then we come to winter, so now we're battling, elements, you know.
Trying to build in not a great time.
So
That makes it tough because, like you said, all summer you're so focused on the core of the racing.
right.
And once it's over, it's like you got the off season, you got, in like your case, expanding the shop, and like the prime time to do that's during race season.
Right.
Which you're not going to do it during that because that would create a huge amount of stress.
Yeah.
So talking about coming out guns blazing, 2019, through a chain of events,
Yeah.
you found yourself in the driver's seat of what class was that in? Was that
That
stock?
was sportsman at that
Sportsman it was at that time. Yeah. Park River. So
There's 36 cars, I think, in that.
yeah, there was a lot.
There was a lot of
Yeah,
cars.
there was a lot of UTVs.
Because that was before they made Pro-Am. So there was not, everybody was clustered to Sportsman, Pro Stock, and then Pro Mod
Yeah.
or whatever.
I think that was the year they talked about. Is it getting to the car count where you need to qualify and only certain amount get into the feature, quote unquote?
They
Yeah,
did
they
try
were.
that at certain
Yeah.
points, but yeah, there was a lot of cars there.
Yeah. You found yourself in, what do I got you first at? 15th on Saturday? And then ended up in third.
Yeah.
So was that like your first time on an off-road track?
Yeah. First time even, well, I shouldn't say that. Yes, it was 100% my first time on an off-road track.
Yeah. In race condition or testing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think Jim chose you?
That was the only option at that point.
I suppose so. Well, you were the one fixing it, so
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
figures,
I was prepping it. So.
yeah.
So, knowing the history of Jim and how many times he ended up on his lid, did that make you nervous getting in that thing?
No, because I've prepped, you know, that car, you know, ever since the last time that, you know, Kyle had fixed it or whatever. And so for the year, for sure the year before that, I think, you know, it had been coming, you know, I've been the one fixing it. So it, you know, it's something I should be confident in, something that I'm working on, you know,
Yeah.
which he ripped one of the sides off, I think the weekend before that, I want to say. One of the arms, I think the lower arms, I had to weld tabs on from the weekend before.
Was that his ERX wreck the weekend before? I think so, right?
No, that was under when I was. So I ran I ran his program 2018.
Yeah.
And that was the
You-
build that me and Ben Alcox did
Yeah, when he launched his radiator.
into outer space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay,
that was
the
that
year
was a
before.
wreck that then that car was totaled.
Yep.
And we had 2 races left. And so we must have had Park River and Crandon left. Something of that sort. But so then KGB was the only option, the only crazy guy that's going to say, yeah, I'll build you another whole car. Bring me a whole brand new YXZ tomorrow, and I'll put a whole new cage on it and everything.
Yeah.
And he had that thing turned around in, it must have been 2 weeks. And then we finished mounting the seat, and then he went out and finished the season. Still did damage on that car.
I mean, that's still the car I'm running.
So yeah, the one that Kyle built,
Yep.
his second car.
Yep.
So now that's the one that you bought from him, yeah.
That's, yep. Because obviously Jim ran it, and then JJ ran it that year. And then,
So did Jim run it for 2 years under your supervision? And then JJ?
he ran it.
I'm going to call it under your supervision.
Yeah, it was. It might have been. It was definitely no longer than 2, because when I worked for, when I started working for Holchers, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So he had at least 1 year, 2 years where.
And JJ must have been doing that one then.
No, because when JJ got in it is when I did all the, aluminum inside and stuff. It was the
Okay.
first year that JJ got in it. Yeah, because JJ only ran it 1 year.
Yep.
So, yeah, and then the year after I bought it from, and that's the car, literally same layout
Yeah.
Nothing's changed in it. Same engine, transmission, diffs.
Yeah.
You know, radiators in the same spot.
Yeah.
Still the 2016 OEM radiator in the back.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah, no, that was a
Still-
good weekend.
Still the same radiator after.
Well,
Wheatland?
it's been replaced. No,
Okay. I was gonna say.
honestly, the one from Wheatland didn't break. I mean, I could have still used it, but the tanks were a little crushed in. But
Okay.
otherwise, it didn't leak or nothing. So
Awesome.
So going back to that Bark River, so take third on Saturday. Sunday you get up on the pole.
yeah, I started on the pole because I was in the invert. Then because I was running for Jim for points to keep him in the top 10 so that he could start on the front row at Fall Crandon.
Did you feel a lot of pressure being up on the pole then?
No, not really. I mean, you know, the opportunities that I have got where, I don't know, it just felt really natural. I mean, like I got in expecting it to be harsh, and I've never really, I never really jumped anything either. So it was really, that was my most awkward thing. But honestly, my initial impression when I got for practice, because I mean, literally practice was the first time I ever, other than driving the thing up and down my driveway, like that was really the only time I've ever driven it in anger, you know. But Bark Rivers are so wide.
Yeah.
It's so wide. Like it doesn't, if you've ever been out on that track, you don't understand how wide that track is. I mean, it is, you know, most places, I mean, it is like, 8 side-by-sides wide. You know, I mean, it's a massive highway. So like, I was trying to figure out what to do with all the space.
Yeah.
You know, like what I came from driving was, a front-wheel drive car on a tight track, and it was underpowered. So you're using your space, you're trying to be smooth. Your entries are super critical because, you need a smooth exit. And if you scrub speed on entry, and front-wheel drive car just doesn't want to turn.
Yeah.
Well, that actually translated pretty well because you have a 4-wheel drive side-by-side, which they also like to push.
Yeah.
So if you're overdriving it into a corner, it's unforgiving if that car doesn't want to rotate and doesn't want to turn in. So, it was really just, being smooth and driving and, and it was in the moment, it was really weird because I couldn't figure out why everybody was kind of driving the way they were. Like I would, like through Cemetery at that point, and everybody was using different, that was like kind of the inception of like the snow tire stuff.
Yeah.
And he was running those Coopers on there, and there were still people that were running like the Ciros and trying to make those work. And I'm just watching people be like sideways all the time, and I'm like just not like overdriving. I come in, brake, and just drive through the corner, and people are just sideways, like sliding way out to the berm and stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, Does no one? Is it not like, like what they're doing isn't working, and it's not fast. It's like, why do they keep doing it? And I don't know. It just worked out that the car worked the way it did, and it's funny because there's a lot of people that bring up that weekend quite a bit. Because there was a lot of people in that race. I mean, both Mark Hortz, Johnny Holcher, Owen, Van Eperen was in it. C-Pod was in it.
C-Pod made the best post about it.
Yeah. I always remember that one for sure.
Yeah, it was. What was it? Somebody's got to tell Jim to come back and kick Jesse out of his car. Something of that sort.
Yeah.
But, it was hilarious.
So after that weekend, is that kind of when you're like, I need to get a side-by-side?
I mean, I've always wanted to race. That's always been my dream to drive. I just don't, I've never financially been, to the point where I can afford it. Basically, if I would have, because like I said, like going up to that point, I always wanted to do it. and it was kind of like a measuring stick, like, because I feel that I've been successful in the things that I've done in the past, and so when I got in there, and I was kind of like, well, it's a good measuring stick of where, if I would have gone out there and just been like in the middle, and like, struggling to make progress or anything like that, I probably would have been like, okay, like maybe I don't feel like I can do what I think I can, but it still might be something I want to do.
Yeah.
And if I would have went out there and just really struggled, I probably wouldn't have pursued it. But to me, when I wanted to go out there and either prove that I could or I couldn't, and to myself, I proved that I could,
and everybody else.
Well, but it's still only one weekend. But I, then obviously wanted to pursue it more, but it still obviously took how many more years in order to even at that point, it was still hard to do because now I just started a business and, I trying to do both is hard, but if I wasn't competitive and I didn't feel like I had, still stuff that I wanted to prove, then I definitely wouldn't pursue it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that car seen its first 2 podiums.
That was the first 2 podiums that car had ever seen.
I remember watching that race and I was like, holy crap, Jim's car is flying.
I think because he still came up for the race.
He did because his dad died that weekend. That's why he wasn't there.
Yeah, he was.
So he was debating whether he even wanted to come or whatever, because I think he passed away on Saturday.
Yeah, because I remember texting him saying, "Hey man, come hang out with your friends." You know?
So yeah, he did come up Sunday.
Yeah, and I remember sitting next to him, and you were winning, and I go, "See, bud, it can do it."
Yeah.
I was giving Jim a hard time.
Yeah.
Well, and it was funny too, because like if you watch like the broadcast, like I didn't even get any airtime because I was so far ahead that I was out of the picture the whole time. I was like, "Wow, that's kind of sucks."
Yeah, Ambo said, "Should have told you, slow it down."
Yeah.
You want some airtime?
Yeah.
So slightly switching gears, and then we'll switch back to the UTV racing again. But what is something that you think this series could do to improve for the fans, for the drivers? Any type of suggestions that you think that?
So I guess my kind of idea that I've come up with is that it's kind of based off other series and just people that I know who are interested in it but aren't at the track, is that we all want more airtime, more camera time,
exposure,
stuff like that. Yeah, exposure. And it's hard, obviously, to make both things work. The series only has so much they can do, and they, had their contract with Flow, and they were very limited. I don't know what their contract was or how the rights worked or whatever, but I know a lot of people who would just, even if it was playing in the background, just want it on, want to see some of it, or so my idea would be to live stream practice and qualifying. I feel like it would be an easy way. The cameras are already there, all that stuff is there. I'm sure that the production team is probably there at least a day ahead of time and all that stuff, but it'd be easy for the announcers, to go through the day, talk about the classes. They can talk about the drivers more. You can get the camera time of, especially for the sportsmen. I mean, they still have a practice. So, I mean, it'd be an easy way to get them more time, on camera, talking to them. And then obviously for the pros, you have a practice, and then later in the day you have qualifying. It'd be an easy way, in my opinion, to get more time, but also dive into more of the vehicle stuff. Yeah. You can have someone in the pits asking about adjustments, or if somebody crashes, whatever it is, there's more storylines to be gained. And also, pros, you have points for qualifying. It's a good amount of points.
Yeah.
like top qualifier is like 5 points.
5 points, and then third for
That's a lot.
yeah,
you
3
know.
points for
So, it's a big deal. Qualifying is worth a lot. So and just the normal dramas and stuff that unfold otherwise. But I feel like just, to reference a different series, Supercross has Race Day Live, which is like a 6-hour show before the main show, and it's all practice and qualifying. And I'm one of the people who, I'm working in the shop, I'll turn it on the TV and just let it play in the background and just listen to it. But I know a lot of people who during the summer, would just turn that on at work or wherever they are and just listen to it or whatever while they're working in the background and still kind of pay attention to what's going on and, whoever they're rooting for, or even if they're just fans of the sport, just to see how their day went and stuff. Because, really you have no way of knowing, how practice, and to see who was fast in practice.
Yeah.
Anything like that, especially with like, how Impulse has the fantasy app now.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to see what your guy did in practice or qualifying or,
100%.
Yeah,
if they crashed ahead, like all that stuff now plays into that where like, I feel that would be a sort of cost-effective way to cover a bunch of different bases when it comes to the exposure and all that. And I feel like too, it'd also be an entry, if you could get that on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, for someone to stumble across that and be like, oh, this might be something worth looking into.
Yeah.
It looks cool, or whatever the aspect is. That then okay, maybe if you're still going to do the whole pay-per-view thing, that maybe that entices them to go forward.
That's the sample pack right there.
Right. It's there just isn't anything like that. But I know there's so many. To me, I thought about it for a certain amount of time. Now, obviously, it's been covered so much on that aspect. But it's like, even F1. Like sometimes qualifying is the best thing of the whole weekend.
Yeah.
It's the most dramatic. And if it's produced the right way, it can be super dramatic, right? Especially when there's like championship stuff up, on the line. That was Glen Helen for us. We needed those points, in order to have a shot. And it's just there's a lot of stories there that aren't told, that could be told, that they don't have that time in the booth during a race to tell some of those.
Yeah.
So
I think even if it's not like a full, even if the cameras are kind of like fixed cameras,
right?
You don't have to have a guy up there swinging it. If you just made it like a couple views, switch between them, and have a ticker going across.
Yep.
Maybe you have like a B squad announcer up there,
yeah.
And then let the regular announcers, Haley and everything, go down and interact with the drivers, and then that builds their relationship, just like you're saying.
Right.
They can go down there and get those smaller interviews, build the relationship, so that when they go up there for the big racing or for the main events, then they have all this information.
Right.
You can catch so much information by stopping by 3 or 4 pits and enjoying a soda and talking with them or whatever.
Yeah, and and then you even, obviously as it, in my eyes, as it escalates, you have, kind of like the bigger series do. You see the sector times, in the tracks, and it's like, okay, now you're going to a driver and you're being like, you had a really good run through the first 2 sectors, but your third sector was way off. What happened? And that's something that I don't think is really, like, we don't get to dive into that enough.
Yeah.
I
really wish we had sector times.
And that's the thing. All the dashes we have do that.
Yeah, but even if you just put multiple timing loops,
right,
then it would be like you don't have to rely on somebody pulling the data.
Yeah.
You could even do that. We've talked about slightly different subjecting, but the sector times, using that for speed limiting for yellows.
Yeah.
That's probably above and beyond.
Well, it is. No, I agree. Like, that's one of the most frustrating things, I think, is the local cautions, because they don't have any way of policing where you're slowing down, where exactly you have to slow down, and how slow you. I mean, obviously no roost, but
It
you
becomes
know,
a very judgment call.
well, yeah, because it's like, my thing. Like I had an instance a couple years ago at Lena, where I was in second, and it took, I want to say, 3 to 4 laps, and I was slowly like a half tenth a lap, like just kind of eating at the leader's gap, right?
Yeah.
And it was the lap that I literally just got into, like, okay, I need to think if I can make a move anywhere. And then there's a local caution. And I go through the same speed that he went through, right? And then they yelled at us on the radio that was too fast. So I'm like, okay, and if we did that again, we have to slow down. Understand, right? Next time I go through, well, now I slow down more than he does.
Yeah.
And now everything I worked for the whole second half of the race is gone.
Yeah.
So like how is that fair? And it's like, and obviously safety's got to be first, right? I mean, but we have to have, it's not black and white. Like there's too much, give and take in the rules that, where, just like, in any of them. I mean, F1's obviously the easiest one to reference to, just because it's such a, for the most part, well-oiled system.
Yeah,
to have
refined,
sectors
yeah.
to where it's from this point to this point that has to be slow.
Yeah.
And that's, I agree. I think that's probably the way that it has to go down.
Yeah.
But obviously getting to that point is, takes investment. And, Lucas was the closest thing when they had those caution lights. I don't know if you ever saw those.
Yeah.
And
Those
they
are super useful.
They were.
When they worked.
Yes. Yeah. That was the issue, is that they had issues when they didn't work. But, it was at least a shot, and when they did work, I think it was probably pretty decent. But still, you still had to slow down,
Yeah.
I think that topic got a really big conversation after the Cup race this year, where they held the local caution for the
Yeah.
Pro 2s,
And then didn't do it for the Pro
4s,
they
and
just
then
ate
the
up
whole gap was gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just, yeah.
Yeah. That was a rough one to watch.
Yeah. It was.
I think a camera view that we need in the production is a point of view on us, like the main safety guides that are going in. Like, come on, that is, champ. If you're listening, you can take my idea, do it.
I think at that point, if you had the, every driver had a, I don't know if you've seen those helmet cams that go inside the
Yeah.
visor right here. Everybody should just have one of those.
We've
there's-
seen them a couple times this year where some people were
Yeah.
testing them.
Yeah,
Logan Christensen had one, runs one usually, and it seems like it works pretty good.
Yeah, the company's out of business now.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
That cam box or whatever?
It was Cambox. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I was totally went out of business, and Kyle tried one from Impulse, and he said it needs adjustment.
Yeah.
Wasn't his favorite.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I think it's still refinable. Like,
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of what,
that'd be so cool if every single one had it,
well, that's what, like,
and then link it into your star stream. Yeah.
well, I mean,
Now we're
even if they took it back, I mean, for when they do a broadcast, they could take it back and edit the footage in.
Yeah, they were using Starstream in cars for the live stuff.
Yeah.
So,
But, which is still, it's just hard because it's such a short race. It's hard to get all that stuff. But I mean, I think, like they almost need, to mandate like a GoPro in everybody's car just for officiating.
yeah, or the aim cams would probably be.
Yeah. I mean, if you're running an aim system,
Yeah.
I mean, because like,
Well, that's true. Not all brands are.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people obviously running Motec or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if that in-car would be used for figuring out who's at fault for stuff like.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Is like because I mean, there's just no, they're not set up. It's not the guys in the towers problem. They just aren't set up to police that many cars all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. They're just not to that point yet, and that's where a lot of the a lot of that stuff happens. You
Yeah.
know? And that was one thing I found impressive with Lucas. I was actually at the last Wheatland race before the tornado went through and ripped everything down. I was there with Holchers, and there was a bunch of people just complaining about the race control and the officiating.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what his name was, but the guy who was, kind of running the show at that point literally said, they had, I think, 5 people up there, and each person was responsible for one part of the pack. And then there was someone relaying, they would relay it to someone, and someone would relay that to the guy in the tower, whatever. But they were like, if you don't like the way we do it or don't believe, want to hear the way we do it, we'll give you a headset and you can listen.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like, that's as transparent as it gets, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to know how this works, come listen to how we officiate.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, that's pretty cool. I guess from my aspect, like, that transparency is cool to see how they do it, and, where the, and stuff like that. And I think that's, if they don't have the guys to get to that point where you can have that many people officiating, then we need to use technology, and it needs to be looked at after, right? Because it's hard the way that stuff is written right now to police what's what and what's,
It would allow consistency too.
right. And that's the hard part about some of the races, and especially the side-by-side classes, is that you have a lot of people that aren't from the sport.
Yeah.
Right. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest positive and negative, right? You have new people coming in. You want new people to come in, but people who have never done this type of racing before, who haven't grown up around it, or just haven't really raced a lot of anything else in general, like, there's obviously do's and don'ts, and there's stuff that is a race move, and there's stuff that isn't a racing move.
Yeah.
And when you're in a side-by-side, it's basically an open-wheel vehicle. So if you're going to learn by fire, like, there's crashes, and, there's a lot of people making a lot of junk.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you don't have a black and white rule structure based off of driving guidelines.
Yeah. And even when you're new, I think a lot of that knowing what's good and not good, and all that mindset might be left at the green flag when that gets dropped.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's definitely some of that, but there's also, in my opinion, there's still an aspect of, when you watch one guy kind of sustain contact and make moves forward,
Yeah.
some people think that that's the way forward.
Yeah.
He didn't get penalized for it. He didn't break anything, and he went forward, right? So
That's what we need to do.
right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the other issue is that, when the side-by-sides were introduced, you had a bunch of people who were around, for the most part, around racing to a certain extent, that saw a way to get into off-road racing that they could afford, right?
Yeah.
It's the only race car you could finance.
Yeah.
So you have these people who kind of knew the basics of it, who respected, maybe, I don't want to say respect each other more, but like respected the boundaries of the open wheeledness of the car, right?
Yeah.
And now you've progressed to, there are people that come in from different disciplines who just think it's like, I don't know if I want to say it's okay, but that you can get away with the bumper car aspect of it. And that's what, it slows down races, it slows down race days, and we have these cautions, and then people in the stands are like, oh my God, this is...
Yeah, and I think we see it in like a majority. It's like you can pick a class, whether it be the sportsman or the pro side by side. It's not like, I think for a while the sportsman got a really bad rap because it was a lot of the like introductory people, because the pro stock, the pro mod was expensive to get into, so a lot of the entry people were in sportsman, as they should be. And then they made Pro-Am, and then that kind of helped guide between, like, all right, now you did Sportsman, now you do Pro-Am, then you get to go to Pro Stock. Then if you desire, you can go to Mod. But I think for a while it was like you could shake the dice because Sportsman might have a good race that day, and Pro Stock could have 3 to 5 cautions.
Yeah, I mean, it switches every year, right? I mean, as people move up, you know, and sometimes it takes people. Eventually, they learn. At least most of them do. You know that this is really expensive if I race this way.
Yeah.
And it's also not the fastest way around the track. You know, but there are some people that's like they got in and they were able to race like that through the first 2 classes, and then they get into the 3rd class and they can still kind of race like that, but they're not super successful at it. But that's still kind of the way they've been groomed now to drive, right? Like, and now you see some of those people that, not everyone, but, you know, if you want those people to jump in, you know, the series ideally would like to see the jump from the side-by-sides into bigger vehicles, right? That's, you know, hypothetically what would be in a perfect world scenario.
Yeah, or you go all
know?
the way up to the Pro UTV, which is... Yeah.
So, which is still hard and a lot of money, and, you know, and you still see the people who are professional come out, you know, a lot of times on top, but like it just doesn't translate. But it also made the sport way more expensive. Like there was a big, you know, for the first couple of years for side by sides, it was, you know, I'm sure like Kyle can attest to it. Like you can run a whole year on the same set of like arms and, you know, stuff and hubs, and because people aren't smashing into each other, you know, the wrecks were so much less, the races went faster. You know, like it was actually pretty affordable, but there's so much contact now through it. And it's, you know, and it's hard because it's like, okay, we're going off the face of a jump.
Yeah. Now you go in the air and then.
Who's going to hold their line?
Yeah.
You know, like it shouldn't even, to me, it shouldn't even be a question, but like it would, you know, something I had noticed from Lucas also, and people have had their run-ins and they weren't perfect, right? But like, I remember certain times when they were officiating things and it's like, so-and-so hold your line, first warning, you know, so-and-so hold your line, so-and-so hold your line. And like, at least you got to warn, you know, okay, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like now, okay, like, and again, it's really not, it's not the guys in the towers like fault. They are doing the best they can with the number of cars that's on the track.
Yeah.
But like, it just needs to be a more efficient way. And if they can't get any more guys, like I said, if you want something reviewed, you need to have a GoPro on your car.
Yeah.
Right? They should use that to their advantage. We couldn't make that decision during the track, so we're going to give you the opportunity to invest in technology to show us different vantage points to help your case. So
I don't know if it's changed in the last year and a half or so, but if you have a GoPro in your car and you have footage and you bring it to contest,
they won't let you.
They won't look at the GoPro footage.
Yeah, I know, and that's I obviously don't agree with that because it's a tool that they could use to help.
It would be like a detective working a murder case, and somebody brings in the murder weapon. Yeah, I found this in a trash can. Oh, I can't look at that. Nope, I have to find it.
Well, and it's hard, right? Because like I understand that there are only so many people, and they only have so much time in a day, and that everybody would come up and probably show them stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right? And that's a very feasible thing that would probably happen. But at some point, we want to be a professional series and stuff gets reviewed. That's just how it works. You know what I mean? Like
there has to be parameters around what is reviewable or you can bring up. So it doesn't get out. You have to put parameters.
Right. So I mean, there would have to be, and like I said, it's not like it would be an easy thing. It's just like like if we can't do one scenario, maybe we can do another scenario to like help, you know, the aspect to a certain extent, you know, and especially if they saw something and don't know, like, right, like just like the FIA does for Formula One, right? They have incidents that need to be investigated.
Yeah.
Right, but they have enough cameras where they can go back during the race.
The stewards,
right? Yeah. But that's the thing. Why couldn't these guys make notes during the race of incidents that they think could or should be reviewed? Yeah. And even without the drivers, that they can go back and investigate and then come back and be like, hey, like, we saw you do this, you know, you crossed 3 lanes in a braking zone and took out 4 guys going in a gravel pit.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna dock you. You know?
So Mikey Vandenheuvel suggested, I don't know how you phrase it, but basically like a review board, and it would be other racers, not particularly like of that class, other racers in other classes, or maybe people that are retired now. You know, somebody that has
right,
actual,
a third party type thing.
yeah, somebody that actually has like a knowledge base that it would be still by your peers though. Like it wouldn't be by
Right. But then I agree that would be a good way to go, but you would have to have a different written rule book on the driving standards.
Yeah.
Because right now the way that they're written is not, it can be interpreted in different ways, and it's not about, you know, who's on the racing line going into the corner.
Yeah.
You know, who, you know, where the contact was initiated. Are you crossing? Are you holding your line? Are you crossing over in a braking zone? Are you crossing over the face of a jump?
Yeah.
You know, when there's a guy next to you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's like, in a perfect world, I wish there was a way to hold their spotters responsible too, because that's a tool that's there that we're supposed to have that should be used, and that obviously they're not controlling the driver, and the driver does what they want, but there should be, I wish there was a way to penalize them both, or penalize when someone isn't relaying that, you know, like that there is a standard that the spotter should have as well, that, and some sort of liability, because they're, you know, obviously it's up to the driver if they're going to listen or not.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that there's a lot of guys that probably aren't the best spotters in the world or shouldn't be spotting.
Yeah.
And it causes more chaos because you're not giving the driver, you know, where they are, or you're spotting in a way that's defensive.
Yeah.
You know, and you're trying to take track away, and I don't want to say unsporting, but it's kind of
A radio controlled.
yeah, you know, like
he's coming on your inside block.
right, you
But,
know,
you
and
know.
it because I mean, what are the drivers going to do? I mean, to a certain extent, they're going to drive the way that they want to drive, but also, if somebody gives it to them with no repercussions, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
They do it again.
They do it again, or it gets to the point where someone's going to give it back. And then what do you get? You get a cycle.
Yeah.
And you get people making junk and saying that the, you know, stuff's expensive. And like I said, like it was way cheaper when it first started because nobody was smashing into each other. You could run the year on so many of the same parts. And
Yeah, I don't think, when I started in 17, I don't think I changed a control arm until Dirt City when I biked it myself and whacked a wall.
yeah, when I was working with Mulder and we won the championship, the most we did was change an axle because the boot ripped.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we, you know,
I've
checked
snapped.
it over and washed it and good to go, you know, put fuel in it and that was it, you know, but.
You know, I think that, and I think it's a future interview to find out more information, but Next Gen, I think, is giving some drivers and spotters universal education.
Yeah.
So that everybody can take and get on at least the same page.
Yeah.
So, but
I know I cycled in on it a little bit before when we were talking about F1 and technology, but what are your thoughts of the continued evolution of technology, not in just like the trucks in our series, but to the buggies and even the UTVs now?
I mean, I think it's a evolution that's going to happen regardless, you know, as you know, that stuff evolves, it's going to, especially from a sponsorship standpoint, right? When people want to put their products on and, you know, do this, you know, put their features and stuff on display. I mean, that's, you know, that's an inviting thing for them and racers. And, you know, obviously when new stuff comes out like that, it's not always cost effective and not everybody can afford it or whatever, but eventually it trickles down, you know, to stuff that people, that aren't going to fork out that type of money initially can afford. And it's just as far as like a learning tool, there's not really a more cost-effective way to better yourself than to be able to use data. I know everybody was, and rightly so, when they made everybody, like, and even the kids in the side-by-sides put the AIM systems on.
Yeah.
That is by far the cheapest learning tool that you can have in that car. It is, the AIM system itself is so easy to use. And to be able to go back and look at your lap times and your lines and, on every track you go to and just kind of debrief, what went on and stuff. It is, it's something that everybody should do. And like I said, like, it's not cheap, but the fact that you have it there already and we need to have it there, use it. I mean, you can't, there's a reason why all of these motorsports are so data driven, and it's because there's no other, you can get so much of it and it's not like it's a consumable thing, and it's just so easy to go back and look exactly what happened and redo the race. And especially if you have a kid and you're trying to teach them about driving and to be able to go back and see where your lines were, and then to see it on the map of a track, be like, when you went here, you were hitting the brake, or I need you, instead of going where you were this time, to go a little bit wide, all that stuff is just, it's so much easier when you can visually show them, like, and kids nowadays, they grow up on computers and tablets and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of them, that's going to be their easiest way to learn.
Yeah, it's a video game to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of, trying to yell at them over the radio or, whatever, and get them to go where you want. Like, it is it's a teaching tool,
Even adults, like, I think it's like,
oh yeah,
hey, was I really full throttle, or
well,
was I?
I mean, even like with the Burnlars, after every race, we have like a debrief, almost like, just like any, like you'd see like on any of the big, F1 or Indy or whatever, like we, me, Cole, and Jordan go in, and once, Luke from Beyond Redline does all of our data and stuff, and he'll pull data and then he'll send us the files, and, we sit down and we compare sector by sector, laps, we go over, what gear they were in certain places. They talk about their lines. I mean, we'll sit for, an hour after a race and go through that stuff, because you can't, like, how else do you get better? You can't just keep going. At some point you have to look into things, right?
Yeah.
Like if you constantly, obviously there's setup stuff and stuff like that, but at some point you gotta figure out what you're doing and where you're driving and where you think you can improve, right? It just, you can't just constantly go at it. Well, our setup was off. Well, I get that, but like, what else can we improve on,
Yeah.
But, and it also gets to a point where it's like, okay, truck felt good. Why wasn't I fast?
Yeah.
Like there's all that stuff, but you have the hard data there. But also, from my aspect, all of our pro buggies are all Motec, and have all the Motec stuff on them. So it's, we can pull so much data that I think wasn't in that class previously. So like, even just like when, for example, a fuel pump is failing.
Yeah.
Like Luke will see that it's drawing an over amount of amps after a certain amount of time. It shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, that thing's going to fail.
Yeah.
He's like, might not be this next race, but it's like, it's going to fail. We should change that. That's, when you're trying to go for a championship, that's huge, right? We had a couple alternators go this year, like saw voltage dropouts, and over time, and then they were just doing weird stuff. Just like the stuff that you can get back, and obviously in this aspect, the initial investment is a lot.
Yeah.
But you can do it, in cheaper to a lesser extent. There's a bunch of different options that you could do it to a lesser extent of and still get data back on. That would help you with preventative stuff that can save you thousands of dollars. I mean, in the UTV stuff, there's so much plug and play, and it reads off of the vehicle diagnostics already. And then it's very easy to add sensors if you need it. But just the basic ones, oil pressure, water temp, oil temp, that can save you tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And
just by seeing if you have oil pressure dropouts or it's getting too hot.
And points.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just, like, something bad happens, a motor blows up, whatever. People say, oh, that's racing. Well, no, if you would have had the data and you could have maybe, sometimes it is just racing.
Right.
But a lot of times it's like you were saying, there's always that red herring or the little hint that happens before.
Yeah.
The
but
actual...
I mean, even with our buggies, when Luke tunes them, there's fail safes in them, right?
Yeah.
So if they lose a certain amount of fuel pressure for a certain amount of time or oil pressure for a certain amount of time, shuts it down so you don't damage anything.
Yeah.
So Wheatland on Sunday, because Jordan got second on Saturday. So Sunday, we had an oil line burst. And Jordan was able to limp around and finish the race, but the car, it would start up, have oil pressure, run for a certain amount of time, shut down.
Yeah.
He could start it up, and he just kept doing that over and over. Well, and it's like, if you didn't have that, you would have ran it straight out of oil, right? And if it was any lesser of a system, maybe it kept letting it run out or start up and it had a little bit of pressure, and then, it would go down. But with the parameters that he set, it never got under 20 PSI.
Yeah.
So we knew the motor always had pressure, and I wasn't worried about it. I didn't have to take the motor out. I didn't get it freshened or anything like that. We knew from the data that it never ran out of oil pressure.
Yeah, she just ran out of half the capacity.
Well, right, yeah, we were just dumping oil everywhere, but still, it sucked that it happened, and obviously you lost points, but we didn't fry a motor, and we didn't lose as many points as we could have.
Yeah.
So it's like, now, are you out of, thousands of dollars? If you didn't have that, again, the initial cost is a lot, but long term, we just saved a whole motor.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, where, again, I understand it's not affordable initially, but if you do have the means to do that, or even just a preventative maintenance thing to get something that can give you some sort of warning to certain, obviously that's kind of the bougiest as it gets, but again, it's not the only motor it's saved for us. There's been other instances where we have saved motors, but you're almost at 2 motors, you're getting close to paying for at least one of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, how long does it take for that to pay back off?
Yeah.
So that's where the nice thing where it comes into play, right? Like it's that stuff you can't cutting that out would be stupid.
Yeah. At this point, yeah.
And
Well, now that it's there, now that it's utilized
right.
so well.
And it's like some of that stuff, like even the fuel pump thing, because I don't think up until this last year or so, I don't know if anybody had as much data on the cars as we did. Like Jordan's was was the first one that Beyond Redline did the full harness and everything on, and so I was talking to Steiny at the banquet about it, and because he, nobody's really had that much data on the cars before, so just telling him what we found was fuel pumps and stuff like that, and amperage draws and just kind of nerding out on stuff. But he thought it was really interesting too, because he's like, well, I don't think I've ever
thought of that,
talked to anyone that knew the amperage draw of their fuel pump before, on a pro buggy. So
as you're racing,
right, so it's interesting. It's out there, and is it necessary? No. Did it make them go any faster? No. Did it save us money in the end? Yeah. And like I said, it is there cheaper ways to do it? Yeah. But to not, as far as prioritizing certain things for everyone who wants to be competitive and in the long run, it's well worth the money compared to not having it at all.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then, like, to piggyback off of that, like, how do you continue to allow the evolution of technology, but also maintain some of the costs, like still keeping it cost effective and not allowing the gap get too big from, the teams that can't get all the technology versus the teams that can? Like, how would you control that?
I mean, obviously, with how the rules are written, it's just like how, I guess in the side-by-side aspect, there's just no performance gain out of it. It's just, you're monitoring systems. You're running off of, a stock ECU, and it's, it can piggyback off of something else or whatever, but it's not technically making you any faster, in my opinion. And I don't really know how it could, because you're tuning the cars anyway.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
so, in the truck stuff, I don't know. It's Pro 2 stuff. I don't, other than, data retention, I don't really know if there's a real great way to make them a performance, strictly like horsepower way, other than maybe like some type of traction control thing, which I still think would be fairly easy to police, that you could check since they can pull data and stuff. But the Pro 4 thing is where I feel like it would be hard, because you need progression. Like, you need what Kyle LeDuc did, with the aggressive, take on how they built that truck, and then all the technology that's in Jimmy's truck. Like, you need that evolution to push the sport forward. Like, you can't just, you can't stay stationary and just exclude all of the new things that are coming out in other markets and just refuse to allow it to develop in ours.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, and on top of that, nobody's going to want to invest in anything you're doing. Like, you're not running anything modern. There's no way to come up, over all forms of motorsport, one of the biggest things is who can come up with the best thing, right? Yeah. Who can come up with the gray area, or, or something new or different compared to what other people are doing, right? That's always been a mantra of racing. Yeah. And if you take that aspect away, it just dies, right? Yeah. I mean, if there's no progression, then the sport doesn't go anywhere.
And even being appealing to manufacturers and stuff.
Right, yeah. Like, I mean, that's
whether it be aftermarket parts or even the OE manufacturer. Right. Like, I always look at Pro Buggy is, aside from UTVs, is the most applicable thing to a manufacturer right now. Because Pro Spec, that engine is in Econoline vans, and I don't believe they use them anymore. All the Pro 2, Pro 4 stuff is way obsolete. Like, nobody's putting that in their car that they're daily driving or whatever. And the Pro Buggy has an engine that's actually in a car that's in a lot of daily drivers.
In a lot of cars.
A lot of daily drivers.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, the problem is that the Pro Spec thing, I think, is easy, and I think they should. I think they could go back to the days when you had like other OEMs, manufacturers wanting to do it, because everybody makes a V6.
Yeah.
Everybody does, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you could, if there was any way that you could, I mean, Toyota's already in the series, they make a V6. I mean, back when Nissan was heavily in it, they make a V6. If you could get Honda back in it, just the engines are everywhere, right? Like, I mean, Chevy obviously makes a V6, Ford makes a V6. Yeah. Like, I mean, I just, in that model of truck, especially in a truck that, the smaller ones where you had, the Tacomas and the Nissan hardbodies and all that, I mean, it's still a relevant style of truck, and there's still a ton of manufacturers that make motors that are, comparable,
Yeah.
I mean, same with the pro buggies. I think the pro buggies are, what they have is a good competitive package. I don't know how big of a can of worms it would be if they opened it back up again, because people, I mean, obviously 4-cylinders are everywhere.
Yeah.
But that style of ecotech is starting to go away though too.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all runs into that. But I think too it would be, even the big trucks. I mean, at what point do you allow like a V6 with twin turbos?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was.
Everything's turbo nowadays.
Well, right, and that's the thing. Like there might be more manufacturer, where you can, and the technologies, turbos are so efficient now. Like it wouldn't be like back in the day. I mean, it would be impossible. But if guys are running turbos on desert cars,
Yeah.
Over how many hundreds of miles, like we should be able to get one through a 10-lap race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Rodney that said, when I interviewed him, said that Pro 4 should be gloves off, full on, do what you want.
Right.
As long as you stick to, basic dimension rules.
Right. I mean, and yeah, I mean, ideally, for sure, that's what you would hope. It's just hard, like where the series is at, and we don't, once the money comes in, if it comes back, I mean, that should definitely be something, because I'm sure there's markets that would be interested in it, just for development stuff,
Yep.
I mean, you would think like even like when you watch like the Dakar and like how some of the OEMs are like pour money into that and the development and like what Ford has done with that just for Dakar, and granted, obviously it's a massive, I mean, huge race, but still, it's still an off-road race that, maybe some stuff can translate. Maybe you could market it differently, to a different crowd, or, I mean, people are trying to sell hybrids. Would you buy one that a Pro 4 went with? That was a V6 hybrid, it might sell a couple trucks,
Yeah, if it can go through the whoop section of death, it can survive my trip to work.
Yeah.
But I think we got to first work on Pro 4 majority of them completing a race at this point. But yeah, it's nice to think about what would happen if we tossed the rule book out and said, all right, guys, see what you can build.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. But I mean, it also wouldn't be fun if the only people who were fast were the people that could spend all the money to do it.
That too, yeah.
I mean, that takes, it takes the driver aspect out of it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think that's a big key that you said was, if the funding comes back and it allows more teams to be able to step to that level.
Right.
So, if you were to be putting a kid through the ranks, starting them off at 5 years old, I think you can start most of them in the kid classes.
Mm-hmm.
What route would you plan out in the current classes that are available if you were planning to make them a Pro 2 or Pro 4 driver?
And they could only drive off road.
No.
I think. I mean, as far as the off road steps, it'd be short course kart, mod kart, and then it depends where you want to go from there. But in that aspect, I think you'd want them to go to, I would at least do some type of go-karting, whether it's clay oval or, like road course stuff.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, I think one of the best driving things that you could possibly do is to take your kid in the winter on a four-wheeler and go on any form of ice.
Yeah.
And no studs, make a track with cones or whatever, and make them go around it and figure out how to get that thing to turn
Yeah.
and control it.
Yep.
It just, once you understand how something rotates and breaks or doesn't rotate and doesn't break and doesn't turn, and how to manipulate it to turn in a way that you can get it to a point that you want it to go to, that feeling translates to everything,
Yeah.
and then in that aspect, it's much easier to grasp something once you start going faster. If you start, because there's no, like, the beauty of it is that most of the time when you're doing this, there's nothing to run into.
Yeah. It's just a pond.
Right, a pond out on the bay.
The banks are
like
yeah.
that's when my teenage years. I think most of the driving I ever did was with my 4-wheeler out on the bay in the winter.
Yeah.
That's where I put most of my miles on, and it was some of the most fun I've ever had. But again, like, it just, you have to learn how weight transfer works, and like the throttle isn't going to help you sometimes, and like just how it feels to be out of control and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And then turn it into being into control.
Yeah.
And and then once you kind of get through that, how do you do that with someone else?
Yeah.
How do you do that and get around someone else and not smash them into a bank or whatever? Like that philosophy and mindset is probably the hardest thing to get into someone, right? Because it's easy to follow.
Yeah.
Right? That's the easiest thing to do, and that's what most people get stuck in. They're good followers,
Yeah.
but you got to figure out how to get around people, and that's usually the hardest part of racing.
Take that different line, take that different approach, and
Right, and when's the right time to do it? And
Yeah.
when are you going to do it when you're not going to make contact or not make a lot of significant contact, in a way that you're not going to kill both of your momentums.
Yeah.
There is places to pass people, but you might get passed by the guy behind you because it's not the right place to do it.
yeah,
All of that, translates, but I feel like it, the ice is for us in the Midwest, is something that we have that we can utilize that maybe people from other forms of the U.S. don't.
yeah,
And then figuring out how to make something underpowered go fast is
yeah,
like literally whatever it is. Like I can't, like, as stupid as it sounds, my little Civic on a road course and just against time, figuring out how it feels on corners and where the traction is, and like figuring out how to get a car that has no torque to go around a corner with speed
Yeah.
and not lose, is, being smooth and figuring out your lines is just, it translates to everything. It's easy to make something go fast, go around a corner, but I shouldn't say go fast. Something that has power go around a corner, but something that doesn't have power to go around the corner fast is where that disconnect, I feel, is. And just to have that experience is crucial,
yeah. I think the famous saying, "It's funner to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the fun things with the side-by-side, right? Is that you are using every single horsepower you have all the time.
Yeah.
And obviously as you go up, you need to learn how to, control that.
Yeah.
Because there's, obviously in the truck stuff, you're blowing off tires, and that all makes a difference on how you're driving it. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
but yeah, it would, I don't know, out of, mod cart is such a good, because the other thing too, to me, is the parent, if you're doing all your own stuff, the prep is such a important thing.
Yeah.
Right. You have to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to pay someone to do it.
Yeah.
Which obviously it gets expensive. But also, it's hard. as far as for a kid, it's if your prep isn't good enough, and whatever you're doing, if you keep trying to change things, like setup wise, that you're just making it harder.
Harder for them to learn.
Yeah. Like
It's hard for you to learn, and
it's hard for an adult to learn when you keep changing it. I mean, if any of these pro guys, if you threw them in a truck and then you changed it every time they went out,
yeah,
none of them would be happy. They might figure out eventually how to drive it the fastest, but it's still going to take time and they're not going to be happy with it,
yeah,
you know, unless you end up on the right one, you know. But, you know, and that's something that any driver that I've worked with, like, you never just want to bring it in and throw the kitchen sink at it.
yeah,
As much as you want to. Like, it has to be incremental changes, and they got to be one at a time.
yeah,
Because you can't, it is so easy to just like, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and then you go out there and you don't know what change made the difference.
yeah. Or one could have made negative,
Right.
or one could have made positive.
Yeah.
And you're still at the same place.
Right.
It just feels different.
Yeah. So, I mean, and when you're, whether it's a child or an adult, for them to realize in their mind, like I did this and it made the car do this, and now I have to drive it like this. Like, the cause and effect, to be able to relay back is massive.
Yeah,
Because there's a lot of people who are good drivers who don't know how to relay what they feel.
yeah,
And that just makes it harder to, you know, whether it's your parent or, you know, someone you're paying, like, it's very hard to then make changes to the car, like, know where your baseline's at. You know, the whole thing becomes more difficult. And, you know, that's something that, and some people just don't have a good grasp on it ever,
yeah,
no matter how much seat time they have. They still have a hard time articulating what does what and what it's doing, you know. But that's something, like, at a young age that, you know, if you can get them the communication, like,
yeah,
to get that, you know, if they can come back and kind of tell you what they feel and what they think it's doing, and then you guys can have, like, a real conversation about it, not like a parent telling their child conversation, but like
even notebooks. Get them out of the car. Get them in the
Yeah.
notebook. Write down notes, corner stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're old enough to do that, you know.
Oh, yeah,
But I know that was something, you know, that I, you know, whether it was something that I naturally had or not. I remember go-karting, and one of my friend's dads was so upset because they were doing everything to this cart, and his son couldn't tell him what,
Yeah.
you know, what was going on. And so we were at, like, a test day, and I remember him coming to my dad and being like, hey, can Jesse go in the car and just see what he feels, right? And I just went in and I'm like, okay, well, this thing pushes really bad when you enter the corner. You know, I made like 2 laps and I came off, and I told him, and he's like, oh, you know, that's,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's all you wanted? Like that,
Yeah.
you know, like that's kind of like
Yeah.
what I had been taught, you know, to, talk, articulate, or how to feel, or what that transition to. And I don't know what the recipe is, but I know that whatever you do in your racing career, that's always going to be a constant,
Yeah.
right? You're always going to have feedback, and somebody's going to need it. And if you can't relay that feedback, no matter how much data you have or anything, is going to overbear, you know, or be more important than the feedback that you have of the car. It might rival it,
Yeah.
you know, or it might challenge it. But if you can't articulate what you're feeling, then,
Yeah.
you know, it's just hard to, it makes that progression way harder. So,
Yeah, I was talking with Charlie Schlevy, and I believe it was Ricky Johnson he was talking about. Maybe it was somebody else, but he was saying how when he came back, the feedback from him was so clear and so easy that it made his job so easy. And that was, you know, clearly probably a big part of the success that was had.
it definitely helps, you know. And like I said, there's just some people that, like, you know, aren't sensitive to it, you know, and you just got to work around it and make the best of it. But if you're trying from, you know, it's only going to help your case from day one if you kind of establish that rapport, you know, to kind of trigger them to think about, okay, well, what'd you feel like,
Yeah.
especially when you're making changes or, practicing or, to that point where you can get to that, where it's not just all about, at that point where your lines are, and stuff like that. But,
So important too because every person has a unique driving style to some degree. So what one driver feels could change the paradigm of what you're changing too because of just how they drive.
yeah. Yeah. That's a big thing. And unfortunately, that's why, as far as the whole, in the racing thing, how would you bring up your child? That's why I like the kids' classes, but because we race on the tracks that we do, it doesn't challenge them a lot
Yeah.
as much as it could, like track-wise, right? I mean, they're so wide for those little cars and, all that stuff. They don't, obviously the simplicity of it helps in some aspect, but as far as challenging them in different ways, that's where the mixing it up with, whatever other discipline you could maybe get them to try on,
Yeah.
where that helps because eventually that track, the track stays the same and they just get bigger,
Yeah.
especially in off-road. They're going to be racing most of the same tracks as of right now their whole lives, if that's what they're going to stay on. So it's like, now how do they adapt when the track feels smaller?
Yeah.
But, so.
Yeah. When you can fit 4 mod carts wide, maybe even more.
Yeah.
To what a truck is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you talked about how your dad was involved with getting you on a dirt oval track setup and stuff like that, and he's involved nowadays with your UTV program and probably helping out with the burn lower setup and stuff too.
I mean, he really, he's mostly hands off. He doesn't. He mostly washes panels.
Okay. Everybody needs a panel washer.
Yeah. Well, it saves me time and stuff, and so and he helps me keep track of the trailers and cleaning and a lot of that aspect. But everything that I guess he was pretty much self-taught as well when we did the go-karting stuff, and that's I guess something I've inherited, but yeah, I mean, he really, I appreciate all of his help and everything he does, but he tries to keep out of the operations aspect and stuff at pretty much all together, as much as he can, because he just doesn't want to be, nobody wants to feel like a liability when, it's my livelihood, is based on a weekend performance. I mean, if stuff's having issues, regardless of whose fault it may be, at the end of the day, I have to take responsibility for it, and it's also just not, he enjoys it, but he doesn't need to be, he's retired technically. So I feel guilty enough for taking up as much of his time as I do.
I'm sure he enjoys it.
Well, he's a little bit of a workaholic, so it's hard to get him to sit still. But he does enjoy doing things together. So just the fact that he can be a part of it, and I know, and him and Brian get along pretty well. So
that's awesome.
That always helps.
Yeah, they're track buddies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, he drove with you for California the whole time. Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah. So rode with and like I said, helps he's retired, so he gets to come with for everything. So
yeah. So we're unless David's got any more questions, I got the top 5 for Pro 2 and Pro 4 section coming. Okay. So you ready? Which one do you want to tackle first?
I guess whatever one you want to throw at me.
We'll go Pro 2 first, and then Pro 4 always seems like maybe a little bit easier.
Top 5.
I do remember you did a greatest of all time at Crandon with us,
Yeah.
and I looked up those 5 that you said on those, and that was Rob Mack, Brock Haggard, Carl Rennesener, Johnny Greaves, and then you kind of had some mixtures at the end, but there was CJ mentioned, Menzies, and Kyle LeDuc. So I don't know if that helps you in some of your.
I mean, Rob Mack would still be in the Pro 2
Yeah.
category. I don't know. Like I said, it's. I mean, throwing in like recent guys. There was a long time that I wasn't around short course there. Through the middle part of my life so far, and so I missed a lot of, that history. But I guess I would say, Rob Mack is up there. CJ in a Pro 2 is pretty good. Or the Show 2, they used to call it.
The Show 2, yeah.
And honestly, one person who I thought was pretty dominant in a Pro 2 and just consistent, who I really, if he was dialed in, I don't think anybody could beat him, was Mickey Thomas. I really, when he, last couple of years when he was running that Pro 2, I really feel like it didn't matter, if he was locked in, ready to go, like, it felt like it was kind of inevitable, like he'd work his way to the front. You know? Like it was impressive, I felt like. And it didn't look like he, I guess I obviously don't know what it was in the truck, but it didn't look like he had to work super hard. The truck looked good. Like it just, you can tell sometimes when somebody's really pushing.
Yeah.
And it just didn't seem like that a lot from the outside, which is impressive to me.
Yeah. In our interview, he said he was just a nice steady heart rate for Pro 2. Then he jumped in the Pro 4, and he was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Now this is racing.
And that's like, because my brain being what it is, I think of like a driver truck combo, right? Mm-hmm. And I was always impressed with how that truck looked and handled.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, in a different aspect, like Keegan's Pro 4. I don't know if you remember when he would run that. And when he would be next to CJ, their truck philosophies were completely different.
Yeah.
Like Keegan's was always so stiff. It like never looked like it wanted to transfer. And CJ's always just soft and plush, and it leans, and it just, that stuff to me is like, like that's where my brain goes.
You can tell it a lot too. I see it in like Pro Spec. I notice it where you can just tell the trucks that they're dialed in, and when they corner, they just want to hook up perfectly. But then when they're not, they try to get on the bike more.
Yeah, and I mean Pro Spec's so different because you have that sequential transmission, and there's that it's not making any traction for you. You're responsible for all of your traction because there is no converter, there's no slip. It's straight to the ground. And that's definitely, I mean, that along with truck setup and driver is just super important, where like with the Pro Lights and Pro 2s and stuff, you have that transmission, torque converter is just so instrumental in what kind of traction you're laying down and how, and just that, obviously the attitude of the truck. I think Brooks was very dominant, when he was on his game. Again, truck completely different, more like a dirt track car, like a circle car, lifting the front inside wheel on corners. I always remember watching that truck, like one of his last years when he would go through Bark River, and before the finish line, he'd go up over the tabletop, and the attitude of the truck like never changed. He'd set it in from when you go like over those two kind of doubles by the guy's yard.
Yeah.
And then you turn in when you get to the street, and he would just set the truck, and he would carry a left front like up over the tabletop and down, and the whole attitude of the truck would just not change. It just lean over and stay.
Yeah.
And just, crazy to
It's like it was
you know,
locked in.
Yeah, just
Yep.
just how the attitude of the truck was, you know. But again, him on, you know, when he was dialed in, I mean, he ran away with so many races.
Yeah.
Um,
Then he took the championship and then ran away.
yeah. If you're gonna do it, that's how to do it, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a common denominator in Pro 2 right now.
yeah. And then obviously like Keegan, for all the years he's, you know, ran Pro 2, he's got to be up there as getting close to it, right? As one of the best overall to do it.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got enough accolades to put him
And
on that super short
plus
list.
all the challenge wins, Pro 2, Pro 4 challenge wins he has
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
He's stacking them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, I don't even know.
That was 5. He
Was it
listed
5?
5
Yeah,
on
you
there.
got 5.
All right.
Yeah, we don't want
All
to
right. Yeah.
overload the chip there.
I just, you know, it's just, I don't know. I just don't always think of it like that, you know.
Yeah.
Like I'm so concerned about the package and, but in Pro 4s, I guess, you know, obviously, like I said, like, you know, Johnny G, you know, Renazenter, I would say, you know, I would put Kyle LeDuc in there. You know, I don't know if he would have the overall accolades, but, you know, I guess he was still dominant in his time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like he progressed the sport forward. You know, whether,
Yeah, definitely.
I would
you know,
agree.
And fan base
yeah,
and everything else.
You know, very influential, and, you know, driving style, and then obviously the willingness to do, you know, the way that they push the truck, you know, development wise is honestly what, when he came out here from the West Coast, is what we needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very stagnant.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no development going on in that Pro 4 class. It was, we're making the trucks to like run as long as we can, and, you know, everybody kind of races each other.
Yeah.
And then you know, when he came out here, it pushed that envelope, you know, much farther because it wasn't being pushed, you know.
Yeah.
Was I have Johnny G, Renazenter,
And then
LeDuc.
LeDuc.
I mean, and like I know I said like Menzies before. I don't know if it's just. I just always remember coming to a cup race and like if Menzies was there,
He was gonna.
if he didn't win, you know. And granted, that truck was just so I mean, that truck again, technology
Yeah.
was pushing the envelope. You know, some would say more than it was supposed to, but you know, is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, just more technology. You know, it's unfortunate that, you know, he doesn't, you know, for whatever, you know, it is. I heard stuff with his back was bad and,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. But, you know, he was always someone who was fun to watch.
Well, he just got done winning the Baja.
Yeah.
So, but those things are a little bit different of a ride.
Yeah, I know. Like when I was listening to him talk about even just like KOH when he would race the side by side and then run, you know, his desert truck for the Toyo Challenge or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, he said that heard him talking about the difference. He's like that the truck through some of the desert stuff is just boring because it's like so plush and the suspension soaks up so much of it, and it's almost like gets unsketchy at certain places. 'Cause
Yeah. They've become so good.
right. Yeah. It's just incredible how far that technology has come.
Yeah.
I saw he had his Pro 4, I think it was SEMA.
Yeah.
And like even seeing that Pro 4 back out on display is like, oh, it'd be so awesome back on the track.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice for sure. I mean, you always like the trunk count, but yeah, and I mean, obviously CJ eventually, you know, whenever, you know, he ends his career, should be up there. I mean, as far as accolades and just, he's been doing it for, quite a while, at the highest level.
Yeah, I think if he retired today, he would easily have to be on majority of people's lists.
Right.
I just think that for some reason there's a reserve that says, he's still pretty young.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and, I guess the argument to that would be there was a lot of years where we didn't have a ton of people racing in that Pro 4 class. And
Yeah. But he still had to beat his dad.
right. I mean, a win's a win. You get a win, it's a win. I feel like that's probably, it could be part of the reserve, and it's just recency bias type of stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the greatest of all time, type of.
The big thing there too is he can't control who shows up with the truck.
Right.
He
No,
can only
100%.
race who's there.
Right. That's why I said a win's a win. I mean,
Yep.
you still got to go out and finish. So,
Yeah.
it definitely is what it is.
That's a big key nowadays, finishing the race.
Right. I mean, and that's again, that's one of they're being pushed. They have to push the trucks in order to win, and that's what everybody needs in order for the sport to do what it's done. But on list aspects, driver car combo,
Yeah.
as far as like just dominance wise, like I said, like Mickey Thomas was his Pro 2.
Mm-hmm.
When Kyle Kleiman in a Pro Light, when he was dialed in with that Pro Light, it didn't really matter who came out. It just, I just remember him just
In the Ponzi,
just
that thing was dialed.
Yeah, he was so fast all the time.
Yeah.
And he had a good run in Pro 2 also.
Yeah, he had Mikey's truck in Pro 2.
And then, like Brock Hager when he was in Pro Light, or even when he just ran a side-by-side. I mean, once he was in on that, it just so smooth. Smooth to the point where, he made CJ look not smooth sometimes, which was impressive. That's hard to do. I had one more. Michael Meister at Crandon in a Pro Buggy.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a good one.
It was so hard to watch him have the points lead. He had the points lead for the first 4 rounds, right? Yeah. And then he already decided that he was taking a break. But, man, if I was in his shoes, I don't know if I could have. I think I would have said, all right, once I get to second place in points, then I'll take a break.
Well, it's hard when, at this point where everybody's at and the community's at, if you've won championships in that class, granted, there's a lot of years where Pro Buggy wasn't quite, in my opinion, as competitive as it is now. It's always been pretty much competitive, but I mean, there was definitely times where, you kind of had an idea of who was going to run away with it, before it happened. But, when we're at this point now, granted, he's a competitor, so of course he would want to win the championship. But, financially speaking, like, if you have sponsors that's not their main focus, and they're like, just race this amount of events and we're good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's, at this point, the payout isn't at a point where it's going to influence you to, or him, I assume that's what it was. Don't mark my words on it, but like that's kind of the aspect where we're at. If you've won the championship and that's not what you're doing it for now, and your sponsors, that's not the priority, then. I mean, wear and tear on a vehicle to go race on tracks, and if you don't like certain tracks or they're, make your life logistically hard to get there, I mean, if
or having to decide to give up, part of your job
Right.
to go to the track where you can, be financially helping yourself and your family.
Yep.
It's a tough decision for people to make, and
Yeah.
can't fault them for making that decision.
No, 100%. I mean,
I think with some of the West Coast teams coming to Pro Buggy, like that seems to be livening up some more, especially with us going out west.
Yeah.
I think it's hopefully we see some more get injected into our pool.
I mean, I don't know if it happened from going out west. I mean, a lot of those guys are starting to run out here.
Yeah.
Once, because I mean that class has exploded
Yeah.
in the past 3 years. I mean, it's I think probably almost tripled.
Yeah.
I mean, in car count and the competitiveness. It's so competitive. It arguably is the most competitive class. You could argue.
Yeah.
But it I know, like, even just for some of the parts and stuff, that you can still only get out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Talking to some of those guys this summer, they're like, oh, I haven't had to make one of those in so many years, like, it's gonna be so and so long or whatever. And then I talked to him literally like 2 months later. He's like, oh my God, I got guys calling me every day for parts. He's like, Pro Buggies were dead out here, and now all of a sudden I got people calling me every day. And it's like, well, yeah, everything's kind of come back around, in that aspect. So
Yeah, it's kind of like right now how it's set up is in Pro Buggy, you got like, I'd say 3 tiers. Like you have your top tier guys, but then you have the second pack and then like the third pack. And each one of those packs are competitive. Mm-hmm. And it's like good racing throughout the whole field.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes the second, those guys move up and they have a good race, but it's like very much really good racing throughout the whole field. But it might be segmented in packs, but it's really good racing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely one of the classes that you can, like I said before, it's, bang for your buck, and with the people that are in it right now, there's, good, clean racing, and that helps, the whole package.
Yeah. So, I guess the next topic is with the Wheatland incident.
Mm-hmm.
And then possibly some, sprouting off conversations of that. But you had a pretty eventful season opener at Wheatland. It was actually in qualifying or practice? Qualifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tabletop kind of caused some havoc.
Yeah, I basically when I went off, I flat landed on top of the tabletop just before the landing lip, and when I landed and my suspension rebounded, it basically sent me up and forward, but just at a little bit sideways.
Yeah.
But the problem was that I went up forward over onto the landing, and I was already going sideways, and was along for the ride. So not much I could do about it at that point.
So it was a couple rolls, and then it went. Did it go end to end, or was it all just like?
No, it was all sideways.
All sideways
Yep.
roll. Yeah.
Yeah. I think somebody said there was like 11 or something.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was quite
It
a
was
few.
really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I looked at my data, and I was going almost 60 miles an hour when I started to roll.
Jeez.
So
Yeah. It's hard to dissipate 60 miles an hour,
yeah,
especially when you're going from tire tips to cage end to.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I mean, just how they're constructed too, they're really conducive to that roll.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, a hot topic that has been kind of circling around has been like health checks, concussion protocol, all that kind of like health stuff. Because we don't really see that in off road, and actually I don't even know what like the procedure. Maybe you can tell us like how it was from, at the actual incident, or maybe there was a memory swipe there or not. But like, how did they go about getting you to the ambulance, and then was there like options, or was it all handled for you?
So basically, I don't remember anything until partway through the ambulance ride.
Okay.
And I vaguely remember taking off for the jump.
Oh.
So, I don't remember anything in between that. When I was in the hospital, I had asked my girlfriend, Emmy, I was like, how did I get out of the car? Because I had no idea how I got out of the car or anything like that. But no, basically, I had crashed, and when they were taking me out, I guess they wanted to fly me to a trauma center that was closer. It was a little farther away, but it was like a higher level trauma center than what was the closer part, but it was too windy. So they put me in the ambulance, and actually a customer of mine, Pat Wassenberg, was actually the first one to the ambulance because he saw me crash, and they were like in staging, or not necessarily staging, but he was over wherever they were pitted close to where it happened, and they pulled me off to the ambulance.
Yeah.
And so then my girlfriend got there, and she got in, and we rode. They were asking me things. I don't remember a lot of them. She said that I remembered where we were, but not, daytime. I remembered I was there for racing and, that stuff. But no, I vaguely remember coming to partially in the ambulance, but I couldn't see anything. And then it was a while until in the hospital, that I kind of regained my vision, and could kind of put stuff together.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, they, because I had broke my arm, but I was complaining about the pain and stuff in my arm and shoulder. They basically, brought me in there. But I was surprised when they said like that I got out of the car. I couldn't believe, like, I thought I was, out, but and then I was surprised that they let me. I was surprised that they kind of let me get out of the car after a crash like that, but I don't know how many people saw it. Like, I know my spotter, Bo, like, he had to tell race guys because they didn't see it happen.
Oh, geez.
Which was hard to believe because it's, right there, but I guess you're spread out, whatever. Again, not enough people up there, but I mean, it, so I don't know how many of them saw it or actually how vicious it was, and I don't know how that gets relayed within the safety guys and whatever, if they just say he crashed and they show up and my car's sitting on all four wheels and there's some panels off and stuff. Like, I don't know what they think. I don't know how it works. I don't know how they judge the severity of it if they don't see it. But I mean, anyway, that went to the hospital, and I did have some severe bruising of my lungs from the harnesses and the G forces when I was rolling. So that was the biggest reason they kept me overnight. Was for my lungs. But other than that, just concussion and broken arm.
Yeah. It seems like the vision, either dissipation or loss, it's temporary or even extended, is like something that is like a standard recipe when there's a hard hit.
Yeah, I think when there's a lot of G-forces involved.
Yeah, and I don't think many guys know that, and maybe that's a good thing that's starting to be recognized, because like if you have an incident and your blurry vision and stuff, I mean, that's got to be something.
Well, and I think it's a concussion. That's a concussion symptom, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly, that was my first major concussion that I've ever had.
Yeah.
So, I think it's why, because I was back to the track before pro races the next day.
Yeah, I remember you coming back.
Yeah, and I was fully functional, trying to, make decisions on the buggies and figure out where stuff was. And,
Yeah.
and I was functional the rest of the weekend, to the point where I drove back, you
Yeah.
know. So, and like I said, I obviously attest that to like all my safety equipment and stuff, but also the fact that I just haven't had concussions in my life,
Yeah. Yeah.
But a lot of, again, a lot of the stuff is safety, how your equipment is and your harnesses. And, I have a full containment seat, that in that aspect, in that role, that was massive.
Yeah. Keeping that head from going.
I mean, it still goes back a little bit, but compared to not having it at all, I mean, I think I would have been hurting way worse, with how many revolutions and just how fast I was, spinning and stopped and stuff. So,
Yeah.
So, and maybe this is because I just don't know how it works, but like, obviously you were more banged up with your arm and everything. So, getting back in the race car wasn't a thought process.
I mean, I don't have any, sponsors that I have to satisfy, in that aspect. I know, one of the things outside of like racing and stuff is I enjoy podcasts and stuff, and all kinds of different ones, health orientated ones or whatever. And since I did grow up playing sports, and also racing, but I played sports my whole life and still do. And so I do like body stuff and health stuff that way, and from a performance aspect, but also just a longevity aspect. I was aware of like the effects that can have, even being mildly concussed and then getting back in that situation, is just it's so dangerous, because that's why obviously the NFL and all this stuff they have to go through, but like the compounding effects of you getting even a minor concussion on top of a concussion is so incredibly detrimental to your longevity, of your brain, and just your ability to process things. And down the road, it's just, it wasn't even, it wasn't worth it,
Yeah.
That's why, if I, especially, I mean, obviously you guys saw my eyes, they were completely blood red from all the blood, rushing to my eyes. And, it's hard to believe that like nobody from, and I don't know how it worked or whatever, but like Parsons, in my opinion, should not have raced that weekend.
Yeah. He had really black eyes too. And
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like I don't know, technically in the rules, like if it's written like that you're supposed to go get checked out if you had a wreck.
Yeah.
But it also, I don't know that it says that they're going to bring it to you.
And well, that's where I was kind of going to. Like, if you had a sense of, obviously you weren't like your arm, and you were like, maybe I'll get back in. I don't think there would have been anything there to stop you from getting back into the race car.
I don't. No,
except the car itself.
right?
Yeah.
That or the
but
people around me. I mean.
Yeah, but no one from like the race series would have been like, "Oh, you were in nope, don't get back."
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you control that?
Right. Well, I guess to me, there's, there has to be more. Because I mean, I've talked with some people, not Carl specifically, but like some other people who I know that are affiliated with the series, and that, even with the safety stuff, right? They're very, the biggest thing is the insurance.
Yeah.
Right. Or one of the biggest things is that we need this insurance, and we need it in order to put on the races. And if it gets more expensive, it's worse for everyone. We can get shut down if we don't follow certain guidelines, blah, blah, blah. Well, in, my point looking at it is that, okay, if we're that,
Proactive about.
well, proactive, or like that is what dictates whether this goes on or not, right? Like, I feel like they shouldn't be able to afford letting someone go out there.
Yeah.
Because if you, whether it was Parsons or even like to me, like CJ at Fall Crandon
Yeah.
shouldn't have been back out there.
Yeah.
He was, if you get out of your car and you need someone to help you walk, regardless of how concussed, I mean, that should be like, and then for him to get back in it, obviously it's a risk that he thought he needed to take at that point. But to me, that's why we have backup drivers as a pro.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole reason. It should be one of, if not the main reason for having a backup driver who you trust to go in there, right?
Should be essentially almost the only reason.
Right.
Like,
right. I mean, and yeah, short of having to not be at a race for whatever reason, but like, yeah, I mean, it should be if you get injured or you get in a concussion, you have a concussion or are concussed, that should be your backup driver should go in. Just like any other sport, right? Like people get injured or people get a concussion, like they aren't allowed to go back out there and, for the most part, they're policed as much as possible to not have that happen because it looks bad, on the other parties involved.
I mean, I remember ERX and Ryan Beat on the podium talking how he's got broken ribs and then something else.
From his motor wreck.
Yeah.
From the motor wreck. And I mean, I know there was some backup driver drama there, but like to be knowingly damaged, like.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, I guess to me, broken ribs and stuff, obviously that's going to be painful, but for our sport, I guess you could probably get away with that. It's just a pain tolerance thing. When it's your brain, I mean, that's not repairable.
Yeah.
I mean, any damage you do to that is it's with you for life.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, you watch some guys that, have had a lot of concussions and, it doesn't get any better.
Yeah.
And they get worse. They're more frequent. Your level of trauma increases with every concussion that you get.
Yeah.
And that's for us in our sport, something that's not moderated at all. Some of these guys that are probably have had so many concussions in their life, it's just it's an unnecessary risk.
Yeah.
That obviously we have another system as the backup driver that should be invoked at that point.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, it's especially if it's someone that might have got their first bad concussion, they don't know how they're going to react to certain scenarios or situations. Like you're coming through a corner, the light hits your eyes differently.
Well,
like that could impact your driving ability.
Everything, and then you're not only putting yourself at risk, but you're putting other people at risk too, in what's supposed to be a professional level event. Pros being pros, we have other means to get your truck out there for your sponsors via your backup driver.
Yeah.
And like I said, like it shouldn't be worth your quality of life going forward or hinder anybody else's because you didn't have your judgment or reactions that you normally would have and it put somebody else in danger or made a bunch of junk. I mean, it's the obviously you spent all the money and stuff to get there and I was there. It's a bummer on the first weekend of the year to do that, and the first qualifying session sucks.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But it ain't worth it, in the end. And I think there are means that they could do to police it. Like IndyCar or F1 has a G-force reading where if you sustain a certain amount of G's, you have to get looked at.
Yeah.
We all have dashes that have gyros on them.
Yeah.
We all have data that gives us G-force readings. Somebody gets in a crash, you pull the data from their car. If the dash logs a certain amount of G-forces, they need to go and get checked out by a medical professional and cleared before they are allowed to get back to the track.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a simple way to do it. That would, be super cost effective, right? Because we already have all the stuff that, you know, the pros for sure do. You know, so I guess that, you know, that to me should be, you know, because I know like even, you know, RJ Anderson, like he crashed. He
Yeah.
went out and got checked out and made sure he was cleared before he got back in the truck.
Okay, I didn't know that
Yeah.
part, but yeah.
So, you know, that was, you know, that's what it should be. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, it takes less than you think. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why anybody who watches football, right? You see one guy and he just hits his head hard, and now they, you know, or it just slams off. Even if he jumps up and stuff, they pull him out of the game to check him,
Yeah.
right? Because it just doesn't take much, and it's a bunch of those things, even if they're minor ones in the car, right? You know, that you get your bell rung or whatever. You know, like that stuff adds up.
Yeah.
You know, and it just, yeah, it's unfortunate, but everybody needs, you know, to be protected from themselves at some point, and it sucks, but you know, like I said, like that's why the backup driver is a thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it should probably be used more than it is. You know.
Yeah, I think that, you know, obviously what we're asking is to make things a little bit more complicated for the teams and do something that's, whether it's like a check even beforehand, maybe before each weekend, just within 7 days before the race, have you had a general fucking check to make sure everything's okay, or if it's just by accident.
Yeah, I mean,
Related.
I guess I don't know how that would work beforehand, because I guess it, like when I think of like IndyCar and stuff, it's hard to believe that they, I mean, maybe they do, you know, but you know, hard to believe that each one of those guys has I mean, and they probably do have a baseline before the year, but like,
Yeah.
you know what, like I said, like when I look at the NFL, they look at it, they bring them into the tent, like, you know, there's how many guys, 53 guys on a team, like they're not baselining every guy every week. I don't feel like, I'm sure that whatever system,
It's not weekly.
yeah, you know, whatever system they have is enough where they can dictate whether that guy should be put back out in that or not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, we just need some type of, you know, a system in place that is just some type of protocol that we have to follow. You know, I don't think it has to be, like I said, crazy in any aspect, but like I
Starting
said,
point.
a starting point, yeah, you know, to just, because like worst case scenario, like, you know, whether it was Parsons or, you know, it doesn't matter who it is. If it was CJ at Falkrandon, right?
Yeah, RJ.
They decide to get back in the car, and now they sustain a wreck that's even worse, and they're a vegetable because they got back in the car, right? Worst case scenario, right? And if that happens, guess what? Nobody's racing anymore.
Yeah, it's,
You know, like it's just like, you know, and granted, you can say, yeah, that's pretty extreme, but you never know. I mean, especially in the pro classes, there's a lot of speed. There's a lot of weight in those trucks. You know, it doesn't take a whole lot to overjump, underjump, contact, whatever it is. And, you know, that's the last thing anybody wants, is to not race at all. And if it takes us being a little bit more careful just to, you know, cover our asses to, you know, make sure that that's not a possibility, and it makes everybody safer in the process, then, you know, and then especially for like kids and stuff, right? I mean, that's the other thing you have to look at, is that, you know, again, like they for sure, if there's any sort of that, they shouldn't be in the vehicle at all then.
Yeah.
You know, like it, you know, there's definitely, we're not policing that at all.
Yeah, that's,
I mean, it's obviously it's up to the parents' discretion, but again, like if they say they go and you guys are, you know, they're all worked up because we spent all this money to get here and whatever, and he says he feels okay and, you know, whatever.
yeah.
But again, the long-term damage of that just isn't worth it.
And
But even
and if you compare that to like high school sports or sports at any level,
Right.
like even young kids, even before high school, something like that happens, they most times have to get cleared to go back and participate.
Yeah, but that's the football series or the scrimmage or Pop Warner or whatever that's probably policing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're coming here just like they don't know how to set the car up. or do any of this stuff, you know, they don't know that, oh, hey, we probably should do a health check. So,
Well, right, yeah, and that's like like I said, like even there's statistics out there. There has to be of correlation between certain impacts and concussions, right? I mean, there's so much data at this point that's been recorded that safety in other pro series have mandated and stuff that we should be able to get a baseline that we can work off of.
Yeah.
That should be pretty close. I don't, the kids side of thing, that might be something they have to look into more. But like because I'm assuming it's different. I would assume stuff is probably more sensitive, but I don't know for sure. But it's for sure from the adult side of things, like that's got to be.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't take too many phone calls or emails to figure that out, or find it somewhere that, where we can implement, because I mean, we always have, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to have a medical professional at the track in the form of an ambulance.
Yeah.
I would assume they know how to, being first responders or medical professionals know how to diagnose a concussion.
Yeah, I think the way that this topic has continued to keep on developing, because I mean it's been talked about so widely. I mean I've heard legends, old drivers talking about it. I think that probably I think my next step is I'm going to try to find a professional that can give us those answers.
Yeah.
Because I mean we always can stipulate, but and I don't think we're far off from what we're stipulating on. But I think it'd be great to kind of get that information even more out there.
Right, and I don't remember what it was that I was watching, but they had a some type of patch on their helmet.
Oh yeah.
What was that? Was it I don't remember what it was. But they had a patch on their helmet, and it was an indicator that they had hit their head hard.
Yep.
If it turned a certain color or whatever.
I thought that was in football helmets and stuff too.
Maybe it is, but again, like another thing that like especially for a crash, for what we do. I mean, if there's something that we can put on our helmets that's going to indicate, whether we need to get checked out or not, it doesn't get much simpler.
$20 sticker.
Yeah, and
I don't know
mean,
that for a fact.
well, even if it's $100, it's still
worth it.
Right. If it's going to save, the series from, possibly having insurance issues, and it makes everybody safer at the end of the day.
When you buy a car and it's got all these fancy, like airbags and anti-crash and cruise control adaptiveness and everything, it makes your insurance cheaper. So. Yeah, maybe that's a route to get some of the cost.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just hard because, obviously if you don't, if this, like for a lot of people, it's everything they worked for, and to not perform on a weekend or whatever, it doesn't want to swallow that pill, I mean, because there's plenty of people that feel that way, right? I mean, it's, when you have, especially, a regular 9 to 5 and you're putting everything you got in this, and then you go to the track and, ring your bell, pretty hard and, feel like you're obligated to still go out there, and perform, which is a perfectly normal way to feel, but it still doesn't negate the certain side effects or the damage that you can do or, get involved, with crashing someone else because you're not all there.
Yeah, I know probably for them it feels badass to go back out there and redeem yourself, but we can still be badasses and be smart about it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, as this conversation has evolved and morphed and, multiple people we've talked to, I think everybody's been in some level of agreement that we do need to take a step to make it safe for the drivers or take the next step. It's just, how do you get there and make it uniformed and followed across the whole series at all the tracks?
I've never heard anybody say, no, we don't need that. I've heard many people say, yeah, we should have that, but how can we do it without, making tons of more work or making it more expensive or complicated? That's the simplest form to do it. So, maybe that's something that we'll keep on brainstorming towards, and we got to figure out for seasons to come.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think there's ways that it's simple, right? You just got to get the data on what,
Yeah.
Where that tipping point is.
I think the patches, I think the data on the logger, I think between that stuff, it's probably, and then just visual indications. If your eyes are red and bloodshot and black and blue,
Yeah,
looks like you went 10 rounds with a gorilla.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. Can you do that and still test out of it? I mean, if you can, if you're cleared, then okay, good for you. Like, have at it. But, obviously, usually that's signs of some type of head trauma.
Yeah.
But, and should have that, okay, you passed it.
Right.
You passed, go ahead.
Right.
Versus someone just being like, whatever, I'm just going to go do it.
Right. And it should probably be documented too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The series should document and keep track of, if some guy's on his 8th, 9th.
Bell ringing.
Concussion, right?
Yeah.
If you don't pass, right?
Yeah.
That should all be documented because at some point, you're just turning into a liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have the opportunity to even make forward movement with rules like this, or just procedures, because we have a series that has been around for 5 years now, and it seems to be going. I mean, we hope it keeps on going good, but a series that is sticking around is going to help us evolve the way that things are going, because it's always.
We're not back to square one. We're now 5 years in. We know the series. We know they're willing to adapt where they need to in some cases. And to your point, it's not, it's a new series again. We got to start back over. They're feeling it out. I feel we're now at the area where we can start evolving even further past.
Yeah. Well, it'd be hard to believe it wouldn't be an area that they would just jump at,
Yeah.
because it can't do anything but cover their end of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, there's no, other than whatever, what I believe to be a small financial, thing that they'd have to put up to probably implement it. But in the long run, to keep racing going without, hopefully policing that better, it's just a win-win for them.
Yeah, and I think there's avenues of the insurance might even kick money in for these types of situations.
Yeah,
for
I don't
getting the equipment.
I don't know
or the protocols, but
how that works. But.
I'm excited to see how this evolves through. Hopefully, we have some more interviews that can specialize in it. I'm gonna work towards that and.
Yeah,
see.
it'd be. I'm sure they'd be for it. It'd be hard to believe they would want to do less.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
it just right. You don't want to. You would like all your guys to race and race for a long time. That's.
Yeah. I've been pretty lucky talking with a lot of the older historian type groups, and I haven't super noticed a trend that guys are remembering dates or people, stuff like that. They're still pretty sharp, but I think we've been getting lucky too, and the speeds are only getting faster.
Well, yeah, and that's the hard thing, right? Is that everything just gets faster and whatnot, and so it's and granted, at the end of the day, it's still a concussion, but the likeliness of getting one because of how fast everybody goes has to be greater than it used to be to me.
I
Right?
would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're jumping farther. You're carrying more speed for the most part.
Yeah.
I feel like, even with the, I'm sure the technology advancement of suspension offsets that to a certain extent compared to what was available, but it'd be hard pressed to believe that the possibility of getting a concussion, it would be less now, and maybe it is just because based on the safety equipment.
Yeah, but I think there's also when you think of getting in a 30-mile-an-hour car wreck, that it doesn't seem that bad, but that car has bumpers that crush
Right.
crush zones, all these trucks are built to not crush.
Right.
Like they're meant to take that tumble, put new arms on it, and whatever else miscellaneous stuff breaks, and go back out and race the next day.
Yeah.
Or,
But, I mean,
or later that day.
There's got to be an advancement of helmets in the last 20 years. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I mean, that's, you know,
Seats, seatbelts, and helmets, I would assume.
right, and neck
have all of it.
restraints. I
Yeah.
mean, that's got to, I mean, if you look at a helmet from now compared to one
Yeah.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of technology that's.
They were just running open face or off-road helmets.
Yeah, like dirt bike stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was it Murr had that neck restraint with the shock in it?
Yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, man, that was like a really cool thing that came out, and then that was another thing that I believe they're out of
I
business
heard.
now.
I mean, I really like that thing.
Yeah,
I
everybody.
think it's a great idea, and I thought it worked really good
Yeah,
for me. You know.
Everybody that wore one that I talked to
Yeah.
said it worked great. Like they had less neck pain just from bobbing around in there.
Well, it makes sense, the theory of it. You
Yeah.
know? I mean,
Yeah.
it really. Well, and that, like, you know, and to me, you know, everybody, in my opinion, everybody should be riding a full containment seat.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what the reason is against it. You know, people don't like it when their head hits off of it, you know, off of bumps and stuff sometimes if
but
you
if
get
it's
jarred.
if it's
But-
fitted right,
Well-
then it's super minimal.
Yeah,
Like, it's
I mean,
supposed to be tight.
is it annoying? Maybe. I never thought of it that way. Some people do,
Yeah.
but like at the end of the day, it's just for the racing that we do, it's just hard to justify not having one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean, in
100% agree.
all the wrecks that I've, you know, either been a part of or seen or worked on or whatever, like there just isn't, you know, there's no downside to it. You know, I mean, it should just be an automatic, you know, and especially like on the kid, you know, with the kid stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no reason, you know, to chance it.
It's easier to probably find a kid containment seat that's built for the kid than it is to find like just a legit, like a regular off the shelf seat that remotely fits just because the body size. Like the kid seats don't seem to be size selective enough. It's kind of like their shirts. It seems like they're always either right in between two. So it's always either too big or too small or.
I mean, maybe, but you know, the thing we don't have like super local around here is a place where you can sit in a seat.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the closest places would be
Pegasus. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I did when I was looking for my seat.
That's what I did.
Yeah, I went down there and they have a showroom and sat in a couple and, you know, see what I liked and you know, and you know, like I said, unfortunately it's within our state, so it's close enough, but it's, you know, it's something that I would recommend, you know. And they're, you know, they have quite a few options as far as price ranges and stuff, but it just, you can't
Put a price on that.
Even if you take and go to PRI and LaJoy or something, the seat brand, is it LaJoy or?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, so they usually have a booth there.
Yeah.
And they have the fitting up deal. So they take down all your measurements and then
Oh, for like an aluminum seat?
for like an aluminum
Yeah.
custom made, like what ISP was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you can have that custom built and you can go there and instead of trying to measure yourself at home with your wife's sewing tape measure.
Yeah, I've never really liked aluminum seats. I mean, not that they're not safe. I just
Yeah.
they're very uncomfortable to me. But
Yeah.
it's just my opinion. But and sometimes they're harder actually, like they're bulkier, like to fit in a car.
Oh yeah, they're definitely with the halos and stuff are
Yeah,
definitely bigger, yeah.
So that also kind of
Yeah.
is unfortunate sometimes. But I really I have a Momo in mine, and I wouldn't.
Yeah.
At this point, with what I've gone through, and even through the roll, I never broke or
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah,
I think that's the other piece of it too is what at some point some level of safety equipment has to start being mandated by the series.
It is. I mean, and it has to. There's certain stipulations. But you still. still has to be mounted in there, and somebody's needs to sit in it that actually fits in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all, that's the hard thing again about, obviously tech and stuff, but like, they can only see so much. I mean, they sit there and wiggle it and you can kind of see the way it's mounted, but in a side-by-side, there's less room and sometimes stock plastic and stuff, and you can't really see how that thing's being all held together.
Yeah.
And then, but is what it is, but that's also the sketchy thing, right? I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
They also have, I think it's still a rule that you have to have it within a certain distance of the stock location. So even if you had like a bigger guy and you wanted to try to move over or whatever, sometimes the limitations are a little bit restrictive too.
I mean, maybe, but I guess that's such a, if somebody's got to move it to fit in the car, you got to fit in the car. I mean, I don't know if anybody's, even if it was a rule, I can't. It'd be hard to believe somebody being like, no, he can't race because he had to move his seat back farther than allowed.
I mean, as long as they're not turning a 2-seater into a center seater.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen some sketchy stuff. People bring a car into, that they ran or something previously, and they mounted their own seat, and I looked at it like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You lucky that you didn't get in a wreck, because you would have died. Like, yeah, it's again, crazy what some people will put themselves in.
Yeah, when we had Mikey on, he said that even some stuff he just does it. Like, I can present it on the bill, or I'm just still gonna do it because I'm not letting it leave here in that condition.
I've been in that, and especially like when it comes to like people's kids and stuff.
Yeah.
For some of the builds that I've done, not that the parents like intentionally tried to put them in harm's way, but they think that this is good enough, and or it can be who's ever building it, thinks that this is should work, whatever, and it's like, no, this thing still goes 50 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And if it rolls at 50 miles an hour, what that did is not going to hold them in there.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that's still a good topic of conversation, and I think it's going to continue to evolve and to get to some level of neck safety.
Yeah.
Well, that, and even like back safety, right? I mean, some of the people who are mounting their harnesses, especially with kids, it was something that with, we ran into a lot when I worked with Johnny Holchers, that he was so tall, and most of his seats, his shoulders are above where the holes are. And previously they had them all mounted so far down and back that, you're now just compressing his spine in the seat. And now you're loading your spine, and now you're also inducing load, and it's all just being transferred through your spine. Yeah. Like, you're supposed to, your shoulder belts keep you back, your lap belt keeps you down. You shouldn't really be loading, sometimes you have a little bit of pressure on it, but you shouldn't be loading your, and a lot of people do it, and then they come out and their back hurts all the time. It's like, well, what are your shoulder belts like? Because, and 90% of the time, you can see they come out and they just come straight down.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I bet you, and he's like, yeah, and I ratcheted them as much as I can get, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, you're just compressing your spine.
Plus,
while basically sitting on a board going over a jump.
Plus if you have the belts like this, and then they go up and over, now this has allowed you to lean forward.
Right.
So I think in most documentations, it's like 30 degrees or 20 degrees.
It's like level or slightly down. Just a hair.
Yeah,
but
I think each belt company probably has a preference, but in each documentation I've seen, it's like 30 to 20 degrees.
Yeah, and but again, like even if you're level coming out, I mean, it's still like, especially for kids, like when they're growing and you have all the growth plates and stuff, like the last thing you want to do is just constantly load their spine and then send them out on the racetrack. I mean, that's you're just asking for it, especially on some of the vehicles that don't have suspension. 570, 170s, those things aren't necessarily made to be jumping, on a racetrack, and you can't change the suspension or anything on them. So those kids bottom out all the time. If you're going out, you're sending them in that and something that can't cope with the jumps already. You're just setting them up for failure. That's,
Setting him up to be a light buggy driver.
yeah.
But yes, we're entering our checkered flag section here. A couple last few questions, but is there anything else that you want to cover before we enter that checkered flag?
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't know. If I think of something, I'll say something.
sounds good. We'll start waving that checkered flag and we got like 3 questions here. So, what would you consider to be a successful season?
I guess professionally, I guess, I would like, ideally, one or both of the Burnlers, they should be running for a championship, in pro buggy. There's, I know Jordan's the one who's consistently up there, but, there's Cole has the speed to do it. He just has to, do a couple things as far as in his racecraft, get up to the front a little faster, and he's more than have the speed and ability to run up there with those guys. So, that for sure would, is, ideal. And, personally, I'd, it'd be nice to, finish a pro stock race would be good, because I don't know that I think I finished one that I've entered so far. But I just want to be, consistent. I think, given, equipment stuff aside, and, it'd be nice to just be able to run a race and show, the speed that I think I have.
Yeah.
So to, I guess, piggyback off of that, not just a season, but what would you consider a successful career in off-road?
That's a tough one, I don't even know. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I would say, honestly, more towards just in life type of thing. Like, I guess as far as with racing, like, I just want to know if I'm good enough. Like, I just want to be there in what I think is equal footing equipment wise, and race against, the best people in the class, and just see what it takes to run with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If I do, then that opens other things, and if I don't, then I'm just trying to make other people go faster. But that's really the only opportunity I'm striving for right now. And then once we get to that point consistently, then we'll figure out what the future holds from there. But
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we've asked you business questions about 10-year and 5-year down the road type plans. But in 10 years, what does Jesse want to be doing maybe in his personal life? What do you want to say, your plans are for 10 years?
You mean like outside of racing?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have a girlfriend and, her 2 daughters, and, that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah.
They get to, they sacrifice during race season for, all the time that I'm away and absent, and I try and give what I can back, during the winter.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty happy with all that. I mean, house would be nice.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I got family, dog. I don't know. I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm, where I'm at, outside of racing, and I guess wherever that takes me, I'm game for it. But
Cool.
right now, as long as the family has fun at the racetrack yet, and I hope it all sustains
Yeah.
for a while. So,
How old are the daughters then?
one is 15 and the other one is 12.
Okay. Geez, 10 years from now, 25.
Yeah.
You'd be probably, yeah. You'd be busy.
Yeah. Well, one's turning 16 here in December, so
Okay.
that'd be interesting.
Have you done the driving on ice scenario that you talked about?
No, she's just going through her she has her temps and
Yeah.
the road learning. So, but no, since I've Emmy and I have been together, they're as I like to joke, little city girls right now. So Emmy grew up in Pulaski, so she's technically not, but I like to give her crap that she is.
Yeah.
And so since we've been dating, I've made sure, like especially in the winter, like we get a snowstorm, like we're going to the shop.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean? It's like there's like 8 inches of snow on the road. I'm like, get in the car, we're going to the shop, and you guys are gonna get on the 4-wheeler or do whatever and just go screw around. Like that's the most fun, right? Just go be a kid. Don't sit inside for that. And so it's been cool to watch them do that and enjoy that life that not everybody gets to do, or have the room or facilities to enjoy. So
Yeah.
no, definitely try to make the most of that. And they both think that they want to be racers, but just like every kid thinks they go to the track and thinks they can do it, and put them in there and not so much.
Have they tried to test it? Oh, is your a 3-pedal car?
Mine is, yeah. No, they haven't driven that, but Abby, the oldest, has driven some at speed. Was in a 170 at a friend of hers, that because they all have friends at the track now.
Yeah.
But they think they can do it. She does competitive high school dance, so that's what takes up all of her time. And then Delilah just she just Sunday cruise. Like we'll go out to the shop and she wants to ride the 4-wheeler, and she just goes on there and she doesn't really go fast. She just goes at her own pace, but just enjoys driving around. So which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Getting a little Tom girl in them.
yeah. No, that's
Teach them how to change a tire.
yeah. Well, as soon as it breaks down, that'll be the next thing.
Yeah.
Let's fix it now.
Yeah, that's a losing skill, I think, in this new generation. But
yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
Just even, everybody, nobody's got to check their tires anymore because they have tire pressure sensors and stuff. Like it's backup cameras and the whole 9 yards. Nobody's got to barely check mirrors because they got lights that come on, when somebody's in your blind spot. Just
that's cars are driving themselves. Yeah, every once in a while when I drive my truck, I go, there's no backup camera. I guess I got to use these reflective things.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right. That was everything we have. Is there anything else that you want to cover?
I don't think so. No, one of the biggest things that we covered was just the safety thing. It's as far as someone who's on both sides of it, and does stuff for people, and just as much stuff as I've done, more importantly, like on the child, on the smaller carts, it's don't skip on that stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's initially easy to justify. Why do I need this expensive seat? Why do I need this expensive of a neck harness or like helmet stuff? I mean, it's why do I have to go through this much to mount the seat this way? Like,
Yeah.
it's just so critical, and and especially like I said with the harness thing, like I just see people putting their kids in situations that just aren't ideal, and sometimes they don't even know it.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, mounting seats and especially probably the kid classes and stuff like that. That's something JSpec can help with, either consult or actually physically do for clients, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I usually if I'm building, that's usually included in if I'm doing a full cage and stuff for someone. I always offer to mount the seat.
Yeah.
Because it's just too critical, and usually if you're building a cage, it somewhat goes off of
Dictates
seat
off
position,
yeah,
so,
absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, it's it's easy, I've known it's just easy to get sucked into. I got a buddy that knows how to weld, and I've watched it so many times, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And you just don't want it to not.
Yeah.
So is the best form of contact social media for you, or you want to post a number or email?
Yeah, any of either my personal pages on Instagram or Facebook, or JSpec. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so you can message me on there. But yeah, and I don't, not here to say that I'm better or than anybody else, but just there's a good amount of people that are whether it's Kyle or Mikey or CJ or those guys know or Fitz or whatever I mean, it's there's enough people around here that know what they're doing and that people can trust. I'm not the only one.
But options are there.
Yeah, always available. Unfortunately, this winter I am pretty much booked already.
Yeah.
So I can't take on any more work unless people want to come help for free. But no.
The full schedule is a good schedule.
Yeah. No. Definitely always good when you don't have to go looking.
Yep.
But yeah, good problem to have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I mean, we've been hanging out at the track from time to time. I always check in, see how the program's going, and it's good to sit down and connect. And I think we hopefully uncovered a lot of not mysteries, but just more background from you, and things that the common fan probably didn't know. And I definitely appreciate you sharing your story about Wheatland. That's always not the funnest thing to talk about, but I'm glad you came on and shared about it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have any shame. Some people really don't like, because I don't know what you want to call it. You see it as a failure or whatever, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it happened, I don't feel like it was something that I could control. And, honestly, it could have been a lot worse.
It's just a testament to your safety equipment and the steps you've took as well.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff, when when everything's built to, the way that, it should be and the rules are written to, it does hold up. And, yeah. And I mean, content wise, it was by far my most watched video. So I think I had like almost 40,000 people see that.
Yeah.
That reel. So
I think there's got to be more than that, because
sure.
I think it was shared out between other places and yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, works one way or another, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Content's content. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you again. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.